Recording is started. It's like spinning still in time.
Okay. Oh, you did?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, so we are recording.
All right. This will call meeting in order. This is the July 19th meeting of the HALRB. Please call the roll.
John Aiken.
Here.
Omari Davis.
Here.
Robert Deco. Alex Foster. Carmela Hale.
Here.
Ray Handley.
Here.
Gerald Laporte.
Here.
Joan Lawrence is excused. Rebecca Meyer.
Here.
Katie Myers.
Here.
Mark Turnbull. Andrew Wenchel.
Here.
And Dick Woodruff.
Here.
We do have a few.
Great. Okay. With that, we'll move into the explanation of the public hearing procedures. So I'll read out a little script here. So effective September 1, 2022, new state legislation now requires certain county board appointed commissions, including HALRB, to have in-person forums to go of the business. HALRB hearings are provided in a hybrid environment, both in person and streamed online, where the public may attend and participate virtually or in person. For members of the board and members of the public join us this evening. Today's meeting is available to stream via Microsoft Teams link. There's also a dial-in phone option for those who wish to do so. With board members, presenters, and speakers losing their connectivity during today's meeting, please reconnect with us via phone. Please keep your device muted and mute turned off until you're called on to speak. The public speaker is not sponsoring items on the agenda. Pre-registration to speak online at the hearing is required. Speakers are available at the front of the room for those in-person speakers. I'll call on you to speak after the presentation of the agenda item. The meeting chat is active for participants who need technical development. It should not be used for discussion, public comment, questions about the agenda, items, or requests for more information. All public comments must be shared verbally for record. Should be assigned public testimony period. All voting will be done by call to roll. Lastly, today is a public forum. Today's meeting will be recorded and posted on the county website. All information associated with today's meeting, whether written or spoken, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. And that's all.
Mr. Chair, can I just do a reminder to everyone, when you're speaking, everyone please speak a little louder than normal and face forward so we can capture you on the microphones. When we all start moving around the room and changing our direction, it makes it really hard to hear online. So.
Thank you. And note that, so there's no May minutes approved, correct?
I will. I'll get them one day. You will get a slew of minutes and you'll have to dig from your insides, memories of these meetings.
Oh, burn inside, kind of long
Exactly.
lately, so.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think with that, I just wanted to let our newspaper Greg, as they speak about himself, just briefly let us know.
Yeah, 1 minute. My name is Greg Handley. I've lived in Arlington County off and on since 1979, when I came here as a presidential fellow and then continued to work for the U.S. government. So I just have retired from the National Institutes of Health, where I worked for almost all my career. I started my career at the State Department, I ended my career at NIH, and I was assigned overseas for several different assignments. I'm very interested in Arlington County because of my long time of being a resident and because I like the county very much. I think it's an interesting mix of both history as well as, a modern city, but with a very unusual kind of suburban, non-suburban, urban feel. And I'm very interested in architecture. I'm not an architect. I studied public health and anthropology and archaeology and biology, but the architecture has always interested me a great deal. So I'm very interested in making sure that the history that's commemorated in Arlington is all inclusive, particularly inclusive of our African-American compatriots that live here, as well as Native Americans that were here before any of the rest of us got here. And that's about it. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot from all the rest of you and from listening.
Thank you, welcome.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move into the, COA, the consent agenda. There's one item on the consent agenda tonight, really, desire to speak, to talk to a board off consent agenda. It's item, COA 23-19. So I guess, hearing is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Yeah, please call the roll.
Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Ham,
Yes.
Mr. Hanley,
Yes.
Mr. Laporte,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Winchell,
Yes.
and Mr. Woodruff.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Okay. On to discussion, agenda item number 1.
Wonderful. So this is a request to replace louvered shutters with shutters of a different design at 3421 21st Avenue North in Maywood. Constructed circa 1933, the home is one of 5 documented Sears mail order kit homes in Maywood. It is most likely an example of the Wexford model. The applicant is requesting to replace the existing fixed louvers. There you see the Wexford model. Fixed louvered vinyl shutters on the front of the house with operable, with operable raised panel wooden shutters, and remove the remaining vinyl fixed shutters from the windows. The new shutters will be installed on black metal offset hinges such that when closed, they will fill the entire brick opening, the brick window opening. The closure to the wall will be an S-shaped black metal shutter dog. The Historic Preservation staff recommends approval of the subject application. Shutters are appropriate for houses in this time period. Both photos and renderings of the original home show that the property did have shutters. The wood is an appropriate material in the local historic district, and operability is appropriate for shutters of this era. If the shutters were removed, the historic dwelling would not be damaged, which complies with Standard 10 of the Secretary of the Interior Standards. Operable shutters will be a utilitarian, visually and historically appropriate improvement from non-operable shutters. While there are existing fixed shutters on one window on the west elevation out of 2 windows. So if you see there's the addition, the 1980s edition meant that there was just like one shutter left over there. And these are, from what we can tell from the Wexford image, only the front 2 windows had shutters on them. The ones on the side didn't have shutters on them. So the applicant would like to go back to not having shutters, especially not unoperable shutters on the rear and side of the property, and replace just the front 2 with these flat panel shutters. Based on the renderings of the Sears home, these shutters, this is their vinyl, they may not have originally been installed on the home. So is the, oh wait, do we do DRC and then invite the applicant to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, is RJ, Mr. Ockert? Are you
Yes,
on?
I'm here. Yes,
Hi.
I'm.
Would you like to add anything?
No, I think you've captured it, Serena. Thank you.
Members of your DRC like to speak.
I think that if you look at the drawing, you'll see that the shutters are louvered, and that's typical of most Sears homes of that time frame. So I think that the panel shutters were not appropriate. We've gone quite far on this with an addition to the building and the Sears building, and to at least keep the front elevation on the one street, it seems to be appropriate to use the wood shutters. operable.
By the way, I also got a comment from Joan. She probably won't be able to make it until later in the meeting because she's costuming a show. She is Mr. Uckert's neighbor, and she said, my husband and I do not object to the replacement in the style of the shutters. She wasn't entirely sure about which materials were meant. I noticed that there is more than one style. It's the double panel that is being proposed, and she said the double panel styles are closer to the double section louvered shutters and would be preferable to the single panel style in my opinion. So I just wanted to let you know that Joe did submit a comment.
So with that matter, that's all for the board. Any comments or questions about the matter?
I have a question. Are the shutters on the door staying or going?
No, they are not original. I do not think they're going to be replaced. Mr. Uckert?
Those are, I don't think those are original, and so they've been removed, and I don't anticipate replacing them. I'd like to restore the home to what it looked like in 1932, and I think that based on the research we've done, it's just to have the wooden shutters on the two windows that face 21st Avenue.
Is it appropriate to ask him whether he could go to louvered shutters? Yes.
You can ask him.
Mr. Ockert, how do you feel about the idea of going to louvered shutters instead of the solid wood shutters?
I don't personally like the appearance of the louvered shutters. I much prefer the appearance of the raised panel shutters. That's my preference.
Any other questions or comments from anybody?
So the intent is for these to be operable. So when they're open and to the sides of the windows, that is the raised panel. Is the back side the same if they were to be closed?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes, that's correct.
I personally don't have an objection to going to the raised panel. I think given the Secretary of Interior standards that they are removable, they could be changed back. And my only comment would be a recommendation to install the hardware for them in the mortar instead of the brick, just from a perspective. That it's much easier to repair grout and mortar than it is a brick, but other than that, I don't object to changing the panel style.
Any other thoughts or questions? Vic or Carmela, any comments?
Nope. No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, with that, I think, it's not sure this year has, well, I guess what we'll do is I'll put out, I guess, what I've prepared, and then we can always amend that as needed and kind of go from there, basically. We can also vote it down if it doesn't make sense as well. So, let's see here. So I move that your HLRB approve COA 23-10, Maywood Historic District, request to replace wooden louvered shutters with wooden shutters of different style. Additionally, shutter hardware should be installed in mortar joints and not on brick, and not and any comments?
Could I clarify COA 23E?
23, sorry, 23.
So as not to cause confusion.
I have one question. What I forgot where they said originally they were going to install the. Are they going to install it on the brick or on the wood surrounding the windows? I think it was in the original application. I think you mentioned it when you were talking.
I don't think they mentioned the anchor points to me.
But they didn't. Okay.
No.
That was the recommendation.
I heard that
Yes.
recommendation, but I thought that,
I don't think it was in the packet.
okay.
So,
Can we amend the motion to clarify the raised panel with two?
yeah. So,
You mean like double-sided or that
Or
it's
the
like
two
two
panel.
panels?
Two panels.
Okay.
Should we do two panel or double panel? I don't know.
So I think that says equal, because that's the style that he's
Okay.
proposing.
So I can make a suggestion based on what I'm looking at. So I think you could, the second part where you say with shutters of a different style,
right.
you could just say with shutters of the equal panel, raised panel style.
Two equal, because there's some threes up there too, so
Yeah, but equals the name of it, I think is what she's referring to.
I can't read that.
Okay.
Sorry, me either.
If you say it says equal, I believe you.
Do you need me to read it aloud again?
Yes.
Okay. I move that the HALRB approve COA 23-18, a Maywood Historic District request to replace louvered shutters with shutters of the equal raised panel style. Additionally, the hardware should be installed in mortar joints and not in the brick.
There was mention in the proposal of the S-curved fixture on the back. I don't know if that needs to be in this or not. I mean, it is on the design from Sears, it shows.
Okay.
So I think he is returning that to the original design.
I think that's appropriate, yeah.
So to say additionally, the S-shaped hardware, like the shutter dogs, do you want?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
sure, yeah, add that on.
I mean, that was on the proposal.
Yeah, so it's nothing. It's not.
Okay, so we do need a second though for the motion, once it's amended. Thanks.
That, just call the roll.
Okay, if you support the proposal, please say yes. Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Ham?
Yes.
Mr. Handley?
Yes.
Mr. Laporte?
Yes.
Ms. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Winchell?
No,
And Mr. Woodruff?
Yes.
Fabulous, thank you. Mr. Acker, I will approve your plans and send them to you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our second discussion item is a request to replace a roof at the Barcroft Community Hall. They would like to change the 3-tab shingle roof to an architectural shingle roof. The Barcroft Community House is believed to be the only remaining one-room wooden frame schoolhouse in Arlington. The building had served as a church, a school, and a community meeting place for more than 100 years. It was originally constructed in 1907 to serve as a community building for the Methodist Episcopal Church of Barcroft. Instead, the Arlington School Board leased the building for $10 per month. And in 1908, it was opened as a school. So the applicant is requesting to replace the existing 3-tab shingle roof with Timberline HDZ architectural shingle roofing by GAF. As the roof is currently a dark grey green, the applicant would like to retain the grey-green roof coloring. Roof, as you can see, it's green but old. The color they are recommending is circled. Mr. Winchell was concerned that it was a very bright green and the shadow line was quite apparent, and asked the applicants to submit images of the hunter green roofing installed. And so these are photos of it once it's installed on a building. And they also, the applicants submitted this image to me, which is the Barcroft sign, which shows that the green roof is iconic to the building and to the neighborhood. So let me go back to putting that up there and say the Historic Preservation Program staff recommends approval of this application as submitted. There are no design guidelines for this local historic district. The roof material is not listed as character defining in the nomination form. It's common for 3-tab asphalt shingle roofs, which are particularly 2-dimensional and do not reflect the texture that would be expected from natural shingle to be routinely replaced with architectural shingle roofing in the local historic districts. The roof was clad in asphalt shingle when the property became a local historic district, whereas it had been wooden shingle in 1936 based on the Sanborn fire insurance map. And we have a record of a permit to re-roof the property in 1951. Therefore, the existing material is non-historic, and its proposed replacement meets the intent of Standard 9 and is separate to the interior standards. The county-made sign for the Barcroft neighbourhood displays the Barcroft community as its symbol for the community and shows it prominently with a green roof. This indicates that the green roof colour is characteristic of the site within the neighbourhood, and the HPP staff has no objection to the applicants retaining this decorative element. Is the applicant online, Ms. Liz?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Would you like to add anything?
No, I have nothing to add. I know Randy Swart is on as well. I don't know, Randy, if you have anything to add.
No, I don't have anything to say either. Thank you. I think she said it very well.
With any DRC members?
Could you flip back to the sheet?
The sample? Yes. Ooh, there we go.
I think, first of all, the architectural shingles are probably much better than what's on there now in terms of the roof appearance to resemble a cedar shaped roof. But the problem with the colors selected in part is really the strong shadow line, which really is going to make the roof
Oh, Auntie, can you speak louder?
rather eye-catching, if you will, and not. You would never get that effect with a cedar shaped roof with those full shadow lines below the joints indicate. And I think there's a better pattern directly below it on the bottom row. There's a green roof that would be a little bit better. It doesn't have that strong shadow line. That's just the comment, and that was recently asked to come before the board to sort of put it on consideration. This is a historic church, and just seems to make a razzle-dazzle top to it that is rather inappropriate. Really doesn't match what the old cedar shingles would look like.
Mr. Winfield, could you clarify, can you go back to the picture and with the
Yeah.
right colors in it? Are you suggesting the one on the bottom left corner or the bottom right?
Bottom right.
Bottom right corner, okay. I can't read that.
Williamsburg slate.
Yeah, once it's full screen, I can't see.
Yeah, I think it says Williamsburg.
And I just, okay, so let's see if I can zoom. Someone knows where the zoom is.
It's up
Oh, there it
there.
is.
Yeah, that's better.
Yes.
I would almost recommend the slate instead of the Williamsburg slate because there's that one pink one in the bottom right corner. And I agree with Andy's comment that the hunter green is very stark, and looking at the photos in the neighborhood, it doesn't appear that there are any other roofs that are hunter green. So I understand the character defining aspect of it, but looking at the photos, I don't, and I could be wrong and it could have just worn over time, but I don't think it's as vibrant as the hunter green.
And you think this, so this is the hunter green installed. And you're worried it's still too green? Because we wanted to make sure, because that is, the sample is extremely bright.
Right.
Yeah. Right, that's true.
And I think looking at the 3 different samples, it still very bright. So my recommendation would be the slate.
I don't have a problem with that.
I think it's really difficult because it's, when it's, can you go back to the picture again, it looks, just in my eye, it looks a good mix of gray and green, but not overpowering green. The ends. I guess is the applicant's intent to have like a green tinge to it. It's really hard because I would support the slate as well. That kind of keeps the characteristics of our craft, but it doesn't look super green to me. Sorry.
I would note that we don't often have this conversation.
Yeah.
We don't usually consider
Right.
Color.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the next photos of the example almost appear to have a blue tint to them.
How did the folks on the line feel about moving to slate instead of hunter green?
This is Jennifer Liss. The slate, we've talked to the roofer. It's actually not green. It's gray. I think this is a misleading. It really calls things out. I don't think it's as green as what you're seeing here in the picture, and that's why we tried to send additional samples. I think if you maybe flip up a bit to the side of our current roof that is not dirty and old. I mean, it's an older roof for sure, but I think if you see there, you can see the part that's not dirty, what the color is like. It's going to be very similar to this.
The green is actually the color of the roof, and the dark is dirt. I was thinking almost moss on gray at first. Okay, that is pretty green.
This really wasn't about color, it was about the shadow lines. And it's probably, I think there are other manufacturers of architectural shingles without that strong shadow line that really makes the roof sparkle, but I'm not sure that that's appropriate. At least in my opinion.
And the applicant explored any other manufacturers? I know you're saying that there's a reason why you're using the JF brand, but you explored any other brand, like any other greens, different brands?
We looked at two other manufacturers green. They're all very similar. And we felt that providing these samples, I mean, if you look at this, that you're not seeing a lot of distinction in the shadow, I guess to my eyes. It didn't stand out to us. And so we thought this was an appropriate choice and kept the color, which is, as Serena has noted, is sort of the iconic look of this and what people think of when they think of the community house. And so we felt that this was the best combination of not having a distinctive shadow line and keeping the look that it's had for quite a while. Randy, anything else to add?
I don't think so. I think the other color that they're suggesting is a gray. It seems to me that that's more of a difference than whether or not you have a shadow line. We can keep looking for another shingle that doesn't have a shadow line. But yeah, it seems to me that it's really a color question.
Dick, Carmel, any comments?
I don't have any objection to what the applicant wants to do.
Can I make a suggestion? I'm wondering if this is one of those things, again, with is it the blue dress or is it a white dress? I'm wondering if this might be something where if your contractor can provide samples of just the colors that we are talking about, as well as, because I know it's not
just the color of them, but the extra shading that we're seeing. I'm wondering if it might be a valuable use of time for you all to provide some samples of that. And maybe so that we can move this along and not have to go into the August review cycle, you could bring that to the DRC meeting, which is, would be the first Wednesday of August. And if it doesn't have extensive shadows that we're seeing, then maybe that would give a bit more comfort. If it does, then we would like you to have another option and come to the DRC and the HLRB meetings in August. That could be an option.
What is the concern about shadows? Does it, what is the concern? I don't know.
Well, the concern was that the on-screen samples are a little bit misleading. So the idea was just that we see the shadow line in person, essentially, sort of you know, get a better real-time feel for it. So the idea would be bringing samples to the DRC meeting in August, and then go from there, basically. I mean, I guess to my mind, I mean, I think if we were to see the Williamsburg slate, the slate in Hunter Green in person, to kind of sort of compare the shadow lines and everything else, I think that would be sort of enough sort of review of this, in my opinion. I think at that point, I'd be prepared to make a decision. But
is there a way we can do some kind of like conditional approval for it based on that? So we wouldn't have to push it into August, and then if the DRC approves, that we. I mean,
Yes, in order for our DRC to have a final approval, you would need to vote on it now because DRC
Yeah.
won't.
So you
So
can
let's
do
slow it down.
a conditional approval pending the DRC's final color determination, however you want to phrase it.
That would agree.
I just found a photo from the Virginia Department of Historic Resources, and it is a very stark green. So based on that photo,
yeah.
I'm okay going with the Hunter Green.
Is there a date on that photo?
I'd be okay going with Hunter Green also, since that's the applicants, and they seem to have thought about this a lot, and we can have a vote.
Yeah,
And,
that's true.
let them
I'd be
enjoy.
comfortable with it too.
Yeah. Let's
So we do the vote.
in that case, let's take a vote. And but with that, I'll just throw it at originally we could definitely go from there. Yeah. So I move that HLRB approve COA 23-15 Barcroft Community Resort District request to replace 3-tap shingle roof with architectural shingles. Any amendments or qualifications? Beth, or a second?
I'll second that.
Can we amend it to include the Hunter Green is approved?
Yes.
Architectural shingle in the Hunter Green.
In the Hunter Green color.
We don't do colors, and then we would say
As proposed.
as proposed, yeah, as proposed, yeah. That's great. There's a second?
I second that.
Jerry. Okay, if you support the application, please say yes. Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
No.
Ms. Ham?
Yes.
Mr. Handley?
Yes.
Mr. Laporte?
Yes.
Ms. Meyer?
Yes.
Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Wenchel?
No,
Mr. Woodruff?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So Ms. Liss and Mr. Swart, I will send you those approved documents tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So on to discussion number item 3. We are a few minutes early, so I want to make sure that we do have representatives. Perfect. Okay, so item number 3 is a request to change siding material and install replacement windows and doors after a fire. This is at 3605 21st Avenue North in Maywood. This photo was taken in 2017. So let me it's a pre-1912 Queen Anne style dwelling at 3605 21st Avenue North that is described as a 2-bay wide wood frame dwelling clad in weatherboard with a front gable roof shingle sheathed in asphalt shingles. It has a one-story, three-bay wood frame front porch on square posts and one over one sash windows. Other notable features include fish scales shingles and molded gable returns in the front gable end. A large gable roof addition has been built onto the east elevation. On March 15, 2022, the home suffered an electrical fire on the first floor. Historic Preservation Inspector Michael Pony contacted the owner by email and offered support, and planner Serena also reached out by email to offer help in any COA applications for repair. On June 27, 2023, a neighbor informed the HPP staff that contractors were removing the siding. So this is photos from the fire. HPP staff that contractors were removing siding from the home. Ms. Tony went on site on June 27 to inspect the site and found about a quarter of the siding removed. So this is that day when just this side was removed. And spoke to the contractors in person and on the phone to inform them that they were in a local historic district and they needed permission for any exterior changes, and that exterior work should cease until plans have been submitted and reviewed. Ms. Bollinger followed up with a phone call, and we've been going back and forth with the contractor for some time. On June 30, the HPP staff received a notice from a neighbor that the contractor continued removing the siding. So this is the day this shows the siding coming off the building. This is the damage on the front. Damage on the side. This is it's called double OG wooden siding. So it's one piece of wood that looks like two pieces of siding. More photos. This is the tie back. So this is June 30 when all the siding had been removed except for the fish scale shingles on the front gable. The applicant is requesting the following alterations: to replace all the wooden teardrop siding on the home with smooth 4-inch lap hardy cementitious fiberboard siding, replace all the windows in the home in kind with matching 1/1 wooden windows, which would be a retroactive approval because, as you can see, the windows are already in the building, and replace all exterior doors, which is 3 of them, including one set of French double doors onto the rear deck, one rear single door off the rear bump out into the yard, and the front door with identical wooden replacements. The rear single door off the bump out would be, well, those 36 by 80 for a single door, and they would all be solid wood. Staff recommends, let me see if okay, so here's the lap siding. These are specs. Siding. This is information for the windows, which we require per the appendix that we created for windows. This is the door information, and that is the hinge finish. So let me go back to an image. So the HPP staff recommends denial of the siding aspect of the COA application and instead recommends that the applicant pursue reinstallation of exited wooden siding removed from the historic dwelling or in-kind replacement of matching wooden teardrop siding. Per Appendix C, cement fiberboard siding materials in the Maywood Design Guidelines. Cement fiberboard is not appropriate as the primary siding material on existing historic buildings. The subject house is a contributing resource to the Maywood LHD and the National Register Historic District. Wood is considered a typical material in Maywood, particularly as siding and cladding material, and is representative of the craftsmanship and materials available during the neighborhood's period of significance. A conditions assessment was not completed by the HPP staff before the removal of the siding. However, even if the siding on all surfaces of the house had been damaged beyond repair, any replacement material would need to comply with Standard 6 of the Secretary of the Interior standards. Replacement of typical windows in the Maywood LHD with identical in-kind wooden replacements is allowed per Appendix H, in-kind window replacement guidelines. Although the HPP staff does not endorse retroactive reviews, given that the historic material can be lost without recourse, staff recommends approval of the window replacement in this case because it complies with Appendix H. Historically, the HALRB has not approved replacement of historic doors without a prior conditions analysis. The doors have already been removed, but given the electrical fire location on the first floor, let me take us back to there. As the evidence of the fire damage and understanding the possible damage by fire safety officer, staff can infer that the doors were damaged by the fire. In-kind replacement of the doors, therefore, meets the intent of standard number 6 of the Secretary of Interior. I believe we have the owner and the contractor on the line. Is there any information you would like to add?
No.
No.
So, is that any thing that DRC member?
Do you have any pictures of what siding they've put on and to compare with what it was before?
Oh, they haven't put any siding. It's just got tie back on right now. It's just,
It hasn't been installed
yep,
yet.
this is it.
Okay.
It's wrapped.
You have a picture of it from a catalog though, right?
Oh, not from a catalog. We have we like creepers drive through the neighborhood all the time taking photos of the exterior of the building. So we have photos of the building from the last 30 years.
Okay, the problem is basically when you change the appearance of the house. And certainly at the time that the retail staff went out to check on things, at least the siding over the porch, which was intact, was not apparently damaged by the fire, was protected by the porch. The applicant's proposal with the hardy siding all around, while it would grant the house a uniform look, changes the appearance of the house. And I think that for good reason, we've tried to preserve at least the side of the house facing the street. And that's why this issue is before you. I recommend that the applicant get wood siding to replace at least the front to match the siding. And it can be custom built. It's not that expensive. It might cause some delay, but I think that the appearance of the house should be respected. At least.
And we received a public comment that was shared with you ahead of the meeting from some neighbors. And we also have a comment from Joan once you open discussion to the community, to the board.
Can I ask a timeline? What you just went through, can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
So the inspector showed up when one side was taken off,
Yes.
but the other sides were still there. And much of it appears to be completely intact.
Yes.
Does anyone, was it suggested to the owner and the contractor that they should not take any more siding off until this is
Yes, we
resolved?
required that they stop.
It's required.
Yes.
But they went ahead and removed it.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure I understood that series of events and that despite having been told they may have to put wood back up, they took the wood down.
I believe Dick is trying.
Dick, please, go ahead.
It's really hard to hear. Are you asking me a question?
Did you have your hand up?
Speak.
Yeah, I did raise my hand. I wanted to see that picture again that does actually depict some burned siding. Can you show that? It's next to a window. I'd just like to see you flash through that pretty quickly. Keep going.
This one or,
No,
Keep
it's
going. That one.
okay.
So it's clear that there is some burn siding. I just wanted to make that point. Thank you.
Can you read Joan's comment and also the public comment?
Sure. So the public comment, let me pull that up. This is from Patricia and Eric Chicoretti at 3609 21st Ave, and this is 3605. As longtime neighbors, 22 years, living alongside the Bethard house, just to the east, we believe the proposed 4-inch lap hardy cementitious replacement to be an appropriate and much advised replacement for the teardrop clapboard siding that was formerly on the house. First, a replacement siding was needed. A fire imploded several windows, causing the clapboard near the window casings to warp and crack from pressure, and further damage occurred during removal of those windows, thus necessitating much repair to the clapboard in those areas. Second, hardy plank will be a sturdier foe against the rot issues that have plagued the clapboard for years, resulting in a hodgepodge look of fixes to the siding. The Maggio family spent years and a lot of money seeking out drainage fixes, but the way water naturally flows down near the chimney area in particular, together with the heavy shade on that side, deteriorated portions of the clapboard there repeatedly. A stream of professionals, gutter, construction, etc., coming through the property over the years found no leaks / no solutions to the rot issues. It's due to the water hitting certain wood areas consistently enough that they never dry. On our side too, the cycle of rot fixes and paint was every few years. I believe the house has needed heavy wood repairs and repainting at least 4 times in the years we've been here, and such repairs pushed the last family out. Hardy plank would eliminate the need for constant repair and replacement, and a 4-inch lap style would look consistently good for years to come. Before the fire, Jane Rebecca was speaking of scheduling wood cladded fixes, but post-fire, the depth of the fixes needed is too broad. And now it is the right time for the house to have a hardy plank siding that will stay looking good for many more than a few years. And so that was our public comment. And then our comment from Joan was, I do not support the replacement of the historic wooden siding with hardy plank. If hardy plank had a profile similar to the removed wood, I might consider it. We have cedar lap siding on an addition constructed in 1989, similar to our 1909 siding that has held up very well and has not needed any repairs. There are portions of our house with this siding that are also shaded. There are likely to be wood siding materials available now that look like the historic siding. I am troubled by the removal of siding that was not in bad shape or damaged by the fire when the project manager was told approval was required.
I would echo what Joan said about if there was vinyl siding that looked exactly like this. I would maybe consider it, but I think that what they chose is much wider planks. So that would be a no for me.
Any other comments, questions?
I have a question. Is there hardy plank that's available that's the same width as this? 4 inches, I guess, probably.
Yeah, the 4 inches is the smallest I can get. It was a 3.5 originally there, and the 4 inches is the smallest I can get on the hardy.
So the original was 3.5, and the smallest hardy plank siding you can get is 4 inches. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it's a sharp edge, not a teardrop edge.
Yes.
Is there a hardy plank that has more of like a teardrop edge to it, or is it all a sharp edge?
It's all sharp edge, and T.W. Perry's telling me that's hard to get the teardrop. That all the teardrop has to be milled.
I guess I would just want to add too that the Maywood design guidelines, Appendix C, pretty clearly point out that hardy plank is, the fireboard is not appropriate for this application. So I just want to kind of point that out for the record that it's in the Maywood design guidelines. It's pretty black and white. It's not a lot of gray to the way it's phrased in Appendix C. It's pretty black and white.
Yeah, I know that's what the guidelines say.
Yeah.
To me, that's not all that important. I would support hardy plank if it had a similar profile, but it doesn't. Okay, it's not the same width and it's not the same shape.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to me that we're at all near replacing something in kind with hardy plank as a replacement.
And the proposal is to also take down the fish scale.
No, that's remaining original. Yeah.
Okay, so nothing.
Yeah, the fish scale is not damaged by the fire.
Is there a fish scale on the back side of the gable too, or no, just the front side?
I think it's on the back too.
Thank you.
No, to clarify, it's not that there's not a fish scale on the back. It's only on the front.
Oh,
Okay. Thank you, Jay.
thank you.
I agree with Joan's statements about, we've had several of these where it's sort of self-help, and then we're faced with approving something after the fact. And the more we approve these things, the more we're going to encourage people to do that type of thing and tear it all down and say, well, you're not going to make me put it back up, are you? And so I just think and in recent years, we've not held firm on this, and I think we've gotten in trouble because people don't expect us to uphold guidelines because we made exceptions in the past. And the more exceptions you make, the more you encourage this type of behavior.
I agree with that, but I also have a question for those who know a lot more than I do. Are there any other fiberboard or concrete-based sidings that are made in a more of a historic way so that there's a teardrop narrow profile? Does anyone know if there's a manufacturer? I know that Hardy Plank doesn't. I mean, they're basically for beaches, but for application in historic areas, has anyone ever developed such a product?
Refer to the architects.
I looked it up. So I looked up cementitious fiberboard teardrop, cementitious fiberboard, OG, historic siding, cementitious fiberboard. Just like I tried everything and I couldn't find anything. But I agree because it's a very typical siding for historic properties, and I'm very surprised that I haven't found.
I would also say it's quite a rare siding to be seen I mean, you don't see it very frequently. So I agree that I'm troubled by the fact that the siding that perfectly good siding apparently was removed when it could have simply been replaced with a very small mill run where it was actually burned and integrated into the fabric of the house. So I agree with what's been said.
Staff would note that this likely would qualify or could qualify for tax credits, which is the state recognizing that since this is a historic district and you are required to meet certain standards, that they are subsidizing the financial cost. Not that we consider financial costs, but just a reminder that this would qualify for tax credit, rehabilitation tax credits.
And can I say something? Four sides of the house was damaged by the fire. The right side where the addition was, we had to take that down because of the rot. There was rot about 3 or 4 feet up from the bottom, and a lot of the plywood underneath. I wish I had sent you pictures inside before we took it off. A lot of the plywood under the wood siding was also rotted and molded, so it had to be replaced. We didn't have a choice.
So I understand that Hardy off the shelf does not have this profile. Will Hardy do a custom?
No, and the reason I chose the Hardy is because the neighbor to the left had Hardy on their house.
The neighbors what?
Can you clarify that? Can you repeat that?
The neighbor has Hardy on the left side, has Hardy on the house.
Hardy is allowed on new construction and additions, so it is entirely.
That's my ultimate question. So if the house would have burned all the way down, we could have put Hardy up. And 50% of the house was burnt. The back was all burnt. The front was burnt. And the 2 sides were all rotten. So over 75% of the house could not be saved.
So you're concerned that 75% of the extant siding outside of the framing of the property would have needed to be replaced.
Correct. The only part that was good was the front, over the front porch and to the right, and then to the right of that by the little bit, all the side on the fireplace was all rotten. All that plywood had to be replaced because of dry rot and the water leaking by the chimney. So that whole right side was all rotten. And the only reason above the porch was saved is because of the porch roof. If the porch roof wouldn't have been there, the whole front would have been damaged.
It just so happened that the fire hit the parts that weren't rotten, but as he's saying, the walls on either side where the fire did not do damage was where the mold and the rot was, and that's the reason our neighbors made the that they submitted their comments.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody. I think so I'm going to go ahead and make a motion on that. I pre-cooked sort of for this, but we can obviously amend it as needed because maybe we change it or not vote, but I'm just gonna make a motion now that, so, it's kind of a long one, so I move that the HLRB deny the portion of COA 23-17 for 3605 21st Avenue North in the Maywood Historic District that applies to the siding change request. The HLRB finds that the proposed request change the siding material from wood to cement fiberboard or hardy plank on the contributing structure is incompatible with Appendix C from the Maywood Design Guidelines. Regarding in-kind replacement of the windows and doors in COA 23-13, I move that the HLRB approve it as is in accord with the Maywood Design Guidelines.
I just have a question. You know, you've got a double negative. The first one, you're recommending that we deny, and we usually, so we have to vote yes if we mean no, right?
Yes.
On the application. So that's kind of weird, but
Wait, so for the second one?
can't you just,
You could say you make a motion to deny, is what you're saying.
okay.
Oh, we're approving part of it.
Well,
Okay, that's fine.
Can we do two separate? Can we
I just
separate them?
want to make sure that people are clear that
Yeah,
that's.
you can do more than one motion if you want to separate it out.
Yeah, we can separate out.
or move the first part, we don't accept.
So nobody,
Yeah, we
is
don't
anybody
accept,
moving to approve the first part, I guess? Maybe it would be easier that way. If somebody wants to move to approve the first part, we could have a yes or no, and I assume from what I hear, the no's would win.
Yeah,
But if nobody wants to make the motion, then are we obligated to move to approve it?
Yeah, but could we just approve only the parts that we want? Is that what you're saying? And then stay moot on essentially the part that we do not want to approve?
I don't think so, because they're asking for a material change, so you have to say whether you approve that or disagree and deny that.
I mean, does anybody want to move to approve the first part?
I mean, I don't believe so.
Okay, well then I guess you gotta have to move to deny, okay.
And I just want to make one clarification. In the motion, it should be 2317 is the COA number.
Now I'm confused. Do we say yes if we mean no, or?
So what you're doing-
Why don't we?
I think these
why
two
don't we make three
motions.
motions?
Okay.
Why do we have three motions? Let's have the motion about the siding, and then a motion about the windows, and a motion about the doors. Those are the three questions, right?
I mean, can somebody move even though they don't intend to vote for it?
Or we could combine the windows and doors unless.
Yeah,
Like on the
didn't
first
To abstain or to vote no?
I mean, I would be willing for purposes of having a vote, recommend that the part, that we approve the siding is proposed. And then people would vote yes if they want to approve it, and no if they don't want to approve it. I would vote no on that, okay? It just seems to be easier to do it that way. But
Can
maybe-
I get in here, please?
Yeah.
I'm just going to disagree with that because I think the motion ought to reflect what the staff recommendation was, and the staff recommendation was to deny it.
That's fine. Let's just go that way.
And there ought to be three motions because I didn't hear any discussion of the door
I think
in
you
the
had
first motion.
Yeah, I combine the windows and doors in the motion, but I can split it out. We can do.
I withdraw my comment. Just go ahead.
Okay, so do you want to split it up or do you want to?
Let's split it up. I mean, it's a lot of voting, but let's split it up just to be clear about it, I think.
So then I think, Michael, we're going to need you to read the first part
Okay.
again.
So the first part only. I move that the HALRB deny the portion of COA 2317 or 3605 21st Avenue North in the Maywood Historic District that applies to the siding change request. The HALRB finds that the proposed request to change siding material from wood to cement, fiberboard, or hardy plank on the contributing structure is incompatible with Appendix C from the Maywood Design Guidelines.
So we need a second to that.
I'll second that.
Please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Ham,
Yes.
Mr. Handley,
Yes.
Mr. Laporte,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Winchell,
Yes.
and Mr. Woodruff.
Yes.
That is unanimous.
Now for the, let's do the windows.
Windows, okay.
Take your time.
I think the windows and doors are gonna pretty much just stay the same thing, but change them along, right? So. Okay, windows. I move that the HALRB approve the portion of COA 2317 regarding the in-kind replacement of the windows in oh, hold on, that's double, sorry. Okay, that's it. Windows, sorry.
Okay, so we're assuming that's your motion, just revised, so we do need a second for that.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Ham,
Yes.
Mr. Hanley,
Yes.
Mr. Laporte,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Winchell,
Yes.
and Mr. Woodruff.
Yes.
Last motion.
Doors. I move that the HALRB approve the portion of COA 23-17 regarding the in-kind replacement of the doors.
Okay, so we need a second for that.
Second.
Can we clarify the doors, are they replacing all of them?
The three doors.
The three
exterior doors.
Okay,
Were all three damaged by the fire?
It seems like it because the fire like escaped out the front and out the back, and that is also how the fire safety officers went into the building.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
so
Yeah, I don't think there's any evidence that they were historic anyway, is there?
The front door,
maybe.
I think.
The front door is, the other two were not.
So would you like me to add in kind replacement of the three exterior doors, just to add some clarity to it? Okay. All right, great.
Okay, so Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Ham,
Hi. Yes. I am also.
Mr. Hanley,
Yes.
Mr. Laporte,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Winchell,
Yes.
and Mr. Woodruff.
Yes.
Wonderful. I will process that paperwork and return that information to you tomorrow with additional information about next steps if you would like to come back and have more discussions about the rest of the work.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Moving swiftly on to the property at 2415 Shirlington Road. So this is the request to install a pergola and awning at the Green Valley Pharmacy Historic District. And I know that we have at least one applicant in the room for the item and online. So this is the Green Valley Pharmacy, originally built in 1942 as a grocery store, was designated as an Arlington Local Historic District in 2013. The building is 1 story in height with a rectangular shaped plan. The large single pane windows have aluminium surrounds and rest on brick Rolock sills. The main entrance door at the southwest corner is solid glass. The building's simple design has minimal architectural ornamentation, with the most distinctive feature now being the prominent corner entrance. The signage that has been centered under the roofline on both the street front elevations was removed at the same time as a mansard roof. There have been minimal changes to the building over time. The owner is partnering with a local business owner to open the property as a restaurant. In June, there have been a number of applications, but most recently in June 2023, the applicant submitted updated pergola and awning drawings for consideration along with 3 bioretention planters. At the June 7, 2023 hybrid DRC meeting, Mr. Winchell asked for elevations of the proposed pergola against the building, and Ms. Bollinger asked for installation information. The commissioners had no concern about the bioretention planters. At the June 21, 2023 hybrid HLRB public hearing, the HLRB voted to approve the bioretention planters but deferred the decision on the pergola because the applicant stated in the meeting he had submitted a flat roofed awning and in fact wanted a sloped awning. And so in order to be able to review those drawings, we deferred the decision. The applicant submitted 2 pergola options for consideration. So option number 1, which is his preferred option, is this one, which would be a longer awning. The numbers are slightly incorrect, so I've just noted where the drawings kind of transposed dimensions from one to the other. So at option 1, the applicant proposes to install a pergola with a retractable awning on the south side of the historic building. The proposed pergola would be 50 feet by 14 feet with a sloped retractable awning supported by 12 wooden beams on concrete footers and 28 wooden rafters supported by a central joist. The pergola awning would begin beneath the building coping and terminate at 7.67 feet high. The structure would begin at the outer eastern corner of the rear service door and terminate beyond the south storefront window adjacent to the main corner entrance doorway. And then these are more sort of plan drawings, installation information. The applicant proposes to install the same pergola with retractable awning on the south side, but it would be 45 feet and 10 inches by 14 feet with a sloped retractable awning supported by 10 wooden beams on concrete footers and 23 wooden rafters. The pergola would be the same height and terminating still at 7.67 feet high. The structure would begin at the outer eastern edge of the rear service door, that's there, and terminate before the south storefront window adjacent to the main corner entrance doorway. HPP staff is supportive of outdoor seating for the new restaurant. A freestanding pergola would provide additional service space for this historically small building without impacting the building itself. Depending on how it's installed, the pergola could be removed in the future without any detriment to the historic materials or character of the building, thereby complying with Standard 10 of the Secretary of the Interior Standards. The following elements were called out as character defining for the Green Valley Local Historic District. The original massing of the building and arrangement of fenestration remains unchanged. Stylistically, the Green Valley Pharmacy is of simple architectural design and without architectural detailing. The significant features of the site include the rectangular-shaped commercial building, the adjacent paved parking areas, and the building's prominent location. The priority for preservation of the site will involve maintaining the historic and architectural integrity of the character of the entire building, mainly as a one-story commercial building with a corner entrance. Staff wants to ensure that the proposed pergola complies with Standard 9 of the Secretary of the Interior Standards, which is new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction will not destroy historic materials, features, and spatial relationships that characterize the property. And the new work will be differentiated from the old and will be compatible with the historic materials, features, size, scale, and proportion and massing to protect the integrity of the property and its environment. Therefore, staff recommends pursuing option 2 and keeping the pergola freestanding from the building. The size of the pergola proposed in option 1 would block one of the only architectural elements of the small building and would detract from the historic corner store frontage. The proposed location and size of the pergola in option 2 would impede the diagonal view to the historic corner entrance of the building, less visibly than option 1, thereby retaining the character of the original corner store. The proposed height of the pergola would be secondary to the main roof line of the one-story building and would leave the sightline of the building unbroken from the street. So the applicant is in the room. And I believe also online, Mr. Ibrahim Alami.
Yeah, we've been at this for a couple of years now. We're definitely trying to maintain the historical aspect of the building, maintain the importance of this facility, what it means to the neighborhood. And, it was actually my idea to remove the mansard that was there, to go back to this capped roof. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact architectural name, but the cap on the top. And one of my reasons for that is because it actually matches, even with the picture that's on the historical marker from the store, it matches that. And, you know, I definitely feel like this, the pergola here, it's, you know, it is something new, but, you know, it's designed in a way where it completely respects what the building is. It's not going to obscure anything that would take away from the building. And it will also just help give the restaurant that will go in there some additional space and for people to sit outside. And the fact that there is a great outdoor space right across the street now, I believe it also complements that. So, you know, I just wanted to share that as, you know, kind of our idea behind that, and, you know, why I feel it would be a great addition to the building, a great addition to the community overall.
Thank you. Yeah, do you have any comments?
Well, I think we're finally kind the elevations we've asked for, and I personally would prefer to have a roof a little less of a pitch to it and drop it so that more of the cornice of the building, if you will, at the top of the building is visible. I think this is a good thing. I think that the massive roof that is removed, most of the people who designated this as an historic building is primarily not because of its architecture, but because of its place in the community, and obviously meant a great deal to the community. It did have a massive roof, did give the building some significance or weight. And I think the pergola would begin to replace that. The massive roof was removed, and the building is rather stark without anything else there. It's a very plain building. It's certainly designated an architectural area. But I think this pergola goes a long ways towards giving the building a little more character and some semblance of what it did look like, not just a clean, white elevations smooth down all the way across. And I think stepping back from the picture window, if you will, at the front entrance, makes will make the 2 acres view much better. So I would like to say at this point, we did not see this at DRC the last meeting, so I'd like to recommend that this proceed as is.
Any other comments, questions from the board?
Well, I would also mention that Mr. Khan and Mr. Moharme are on the line. I wasn't sure if they wanted to comment as well, if you had any comments or not.
Hi, this is Anwar Moharme. Yeah, I did not hear very good what the last person says, but if you have any question for me, I will answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a quick question about all the utilities are going to be now under this pergola? There's the gas meter, and then there's this window. Just what they are. Will they be moved or will they remain there? Is there any kind of safety concern if people are going to be sitting under a pergola next to a gas meter? I don't know. That's just a question. And is that window going to be? It doesn't appear it'll be included, but I'm just curious what it's probably a bathroom, I would guess. But is there any planning or concern around that? I also agree that I like the design. I think it adds a nice feature to the building. I don't really have a problem with it, but I'm just wondering about the safety concern from a health point of view. And then there's also, I see other piping and that sort of thing. I don't know if those will be moved or buried or somehow adjusted just to make sure that it's a safe space. It'd be a shame to build it and then have a health inspector come in and say, you can't see people in this kind of space.
Okay, I think everything will be taken into consideration and based on the code and what's the requirement. And I think it's not going to be an issue with that. It's going to be safe and meeting the codes.
It's a retractable awning and it's not enclosed. So that's helpful, but I see your point and I will check. I do have a site plan with some of the utilities and we had seen some of them move around. So I will check to see whether that is one of the utilities that moved around to the back.
I would support option 2 with the reduced width of the pergola, keeping the window unobstructed.
Yeah, I agree. Right, corners, entrance, at the focal point.
I think also I agree with that as well, especially because where you approach it from seeing the corner.
I have a question. Will seating be allowed in front of the window? Just a question. Because, if you had the option 1, you would put people, that people would not be under the canopy, but they could be seated there. Or maybe, I'm just questioning, could they or could they not be seated there if the canopy is not above them?
I don't know if we can answer that. That might be
That might be a
zoning
fire
or
code or,
inspection
yeah.
services would be able to answer that. And that window that's on the side, that's in the kitchen area,
Yeah,
correct?
it's the kitchen,
Yes,
what's currently the kitchen area.
right.
Oh, the small square window?
Yes, on the side, yeah.
So, if you'll be able to see, if we approve option 2, will you still be able to sit people outside of that window, even though they won't be in a covered space?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, as I said, I'm assuming that would be a code thing. So.
And covering is not required for seating. You
I
can
know
have-
that.
Yeah, okay.
That's why you're saying this will allow a little bit more room, and I'm thinking that if we approve option 2 rather than option 1, we're not necessarily cutting down on the seating. We may be cutting down on the covered seating, but not on seating. And if it's raining, obviously people aren't going to eat outdoors. But
Well, the drawing actually shows seating that's uncovered as well as covered.
oh, it does.
So the seating is
There's seating
limited
out.
by the
It
interior.
shows seating in
Okay.
all of that space.
Okay.
It's just that this part seems to have the pergola.
Okay. So that's the answer to my question.
Okay.
So there is going to be seating all in front, and some covered.
It's proposed here.
Yeah.
Lee Carmella, any questions or comments?
No, I think I prefer option 2.
Same.
All right, well, with that, make a motion. So I move that HLRB approve COA 21-30C, Green Valley Pharmacy Historic District, request to install pergola as presented in proposed option 2.
I'll second that. Please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Ham,
Yes.
Mr. Handley,
Yes.
Mr. Laporte,
Yes.
Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes,
Mr. Wenschel,
Yes,
and Mr. Woodruff.
Yes.
That's unanimous.
Thank you.
We need another restroom.
They're working on it.
We're eager. We're eager.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good luck.
Ah,
Lovely, okay.
I'm up.
Yes, Lauren, you're up.
You get a break. All right. So this project is 2801 Columbia Pike, which is within our commercial form-based code area. As a reminder, the Elkin building is recommended for facade preservation in the commercial form-based code. There are no guidelines on how to achieve facade preservation, and the commercial form-based code relies on the discretion of the HALRB.
The last we heard from this applicant was in December 2022. Before the December meeting, the applicant had been trying to accomplish a transit shelter in front of the Elkins building along Columbia Pike, which would have required moving the historic facade by a certain amount of feet and making further alterations to allow the facade to fit in this new kind of footprint. Those discussions during the December meeting led to the HLRB requesting, instead of moving the historic facade, that the applicant utilize one of the existing ground floor retail alcoves and convert that for use as a transit shelter. They also asked the applicant to utilize the streamlined modern style of the Elkins building and its horizontality to influence the design of the new construction. The applicant is proposing to build 5 more stories above the 2-story historic facade. So, which I think I say now in my next part. Sorry, current proposal. The applicants now propose to retain the 2-story historic facade in situ and provide a 4-foot setback from the new construction of floors 3 through 7. For the transit shelter, the applicants propose to alter an existing retail alcove by removing a single door entry and storefront window and installing impact resistant panels to mimic the existing storefront glazing. Let me see. Together, yes, brilliant. So here you can see at the top the existing storefront and how they plan to make an alteration there.
And let me know if you want me to.
It'll be a surprise. We'll see. This will create a wider recessed area and allow for 2 benches and a handicapped accessible space for wheelchairs. And the applicants are also proposing new construction behind the historic facade for floors 3 through 7. There we go. With closer inspiration from the streamlined modern style similar to the Elkins building. So the DRC reviewed the project and stated that the new construction for floors 3 to 7 were more in keeping with the streamlined modern style of the Elkins building. So let's take a look at this beauty.
Okay, I'm going to read full size. I just wanted everyone to be able to see that. So,
ooh, there we go.
This is the Walter Reed side, not the Columbia Pike side.
Thank you. There was a suggestion for the lighter gray colors on floors 3 through 7 to be extended towards the top of the building with a thin line near the roof coping. And another suggestion was for the windows at the central curved section of the new construction to have side-by-side windows. And back, yep.
Can you go to the Walter Reed side again?
Walter Reed, and then, so you can kind of see near where the single tree is over there, that's where the curved section is. And you can kind of see the floors 3 through 7 has kind of the square shaped fenestration pattern going on, but they're all, they are separated, at least at the curve, and it was suggested to bring those together.
I'm sorry, I can't tell, is the curve at the intersection of Walter Reed and Columbia
Yes.
still maintained on the
Yes, so
other
you
floors?
can see, yeah, so this will all still be the same.
Okay.
We have to have discussions with the applicant if they pursue the project to come up with an idea of how that would be done, the facade preservation, but in all likelihood, they will be taking it down, putting it in storage, and then we'll go into a process on how they will put it back up, exactly how it looks like today, if not in better shape. So, but you can kind of still see the curve right there. They're still maintaining
But
that.
I'm just talking about the stories above it.
Yes.
The new structure.
Yes.
Okay.
And the applicant's going to have a presentation, so they may give more angles. So, so that's kind of the overview. Back, that's the inside wall. Those are parts. Ah, there we go.
Oh,
See?
that's better.
You're welcome. So I'm just going to go ahead and go into my recommendations so the applicant can give their presentation. So staff recommends approval of the subject application, the proposal to retain the 2-story historic facade of the Elkins building in situ with a 4-foot step back for new construction provides an appropriate distinction from the historic architecture and the new construction. It also continues the feeling of the 2-story building from the street level and supports the pedestrian experience from an urban design perspective. It's accommodating a new transit shelter and existing retail alcove of the Elkins building, which is a creative solution to meet the needs of transit riders without having to move the historic facade. The design of the new construction for floors 3 through 7 complements the streamlined modern style of the Elkins building through its material choices, subtle architectural details in the balcony design, and window fenestration pattern and frequency, and the overall horizontality using different materials and colors. And lastly, the added horizontal band near the roof coping reinforces the shape of the Elkins building's roof. This proposal conforms with standards number 2, number 5, and number 9 specified in the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. Sarah, are you on the line?
I am here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Excellent.
So,
I'm going to share if that's okay.
yes. Do we have to do it? No, you can just, okay.
Is that working?
We can see it. We see it and we see
Okay,
it.
great. It's only been 3+ years and I'm still asking. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Mariska. I'm a land use attorney with Odin Feldman Pittleman, and with me is Rodney Williams with Devereaux and Associates Architects, as well as John Regan, who I believe is still on the line with Christopher Companies. We have been to this group before, and I'm going to just go back and provide a little bit more context, not a ton, because I know you have more after this item, but just a little more context about this to elaborate on a few of the points that Lauren has made. On the screen is the existing building, and I did want to just go through a few images beyond what Lauren had shown to give a little bit more context. This is the curved corner we were just talking about, and just to provide a little bit more detail to give some context for what we have been trying to grapple with on this site. This is a very small site. It's about 19,000 square feet. Under 20,000 square feet is a very small site in Arlington County even, and especially along Columbia Pike. To the east of this site was approved as a multifamily building with ground floor retail and commercial uses, known as the Elliott. And this site is considered important in terms of the historic preservation aspects for that existing streamlined modern facade. A few more images, the corner, this is looking along Columbia Pike. This is from facing towards Columbia Pike from Walter Reed from the back corner. This is a head-on along Walter Reed. And then I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail to what Lauren had mentioned. Since we were here in December, we did we're very happy to report that we were able to accommodate that transit shelter within the facade structure of the building. I think it works out incredibly well. And I think that is a really creative solution to the problems we were trying to solve in terms of accommodating the transit stop along Columbia Pike without impacting the historic facade. To go back in time, when we started looking at this project, we started with DRC. We came in April of 2022 with rendering as seen on the screen. The feedback was that there needed to be something in keeping with the historic facade that was more similar than this represented. We came back in May to try and unify the upper floors with the historic facade, received some positive comments, but wanted to continue to advance the design beyond this rather conceptual stage. To that end, in December, we came to both the DRC and the HALRB with a design that had advanced and received some additional comments about the rooftop level and the colors and how we both complemented the Elliott, but also were distinguished from the Elliott and really looked at how we could bring the historic facade with the upper floors together. And to that end, we are here tonight with the updated design that Lauren had showed. The things I wanted to elaborate on are that we did receive some incredibly helpful feedback from the DRC a few weeks ago, and we have updated the color on the highest, most cornice element. So I wanted to touch on that. This reflects the lighter element at the top. I do want to show how that has evolved here is what we presented to the DRC. And based on the feedback that we received at that meeting, we updated the cornice element to be a lighter color to really capture the banding and also complement the lower historic facade. One of the other comments that Lauren alluded to was about the window treatments at the corner on that curved corner. We, in these renderings that you are seeing tonight, we did not update the window treatment, but I wanted to make clear to this group that we are open to either the window that you see reflected on the upper left-hand side of the screen or the window pattern that is reflected on the lower right-hand side. We did not update the rendering for this evening. We would love the option to have either one of these window configurations. So I did want to make that point before you all proceed with discussion. In conclusion, we are happy to answer questions. We are very appreciative of the comments we have gotten through this process and really are pleased with how the design has evolved and welcome the comments and questions that this group might have. John or Rodney, there may be something that I have omitted, so please jump in if I have not said something that we wanted to convey.
No, the only thing I will bring up, the reason that we did not change what was happening on the hinge or the curved part is because both of them work well, and the only issue we were talking about is it's a faceted section of solid wall. So if we do want it to look like one window, we can change the coloring between the window to actually look like it's a mole. Our theory was to anything on the hinge side should be a little bit different than what's on either the Walter Reed side because it's special. It's special in nature because it's on the hinge. It's turning the corner. It's a transitional piece. So the one in the upper left shows either a large window and then a smaller transom and then a smaller one at the bottom, kind of mimicking what we had in the original down below. And then the one you see on the bottom right still does individual windows, but has a more of an equal size. But yeah, we're open to any kind of comments you have.
Thank you.
Are we going to hear from DRC or shall I say something?
DRC.
Okay, I think a number of us, not just myself, have been working on this with the applicant, and I think it's come a long ways. In fact, I think I said it to last DRC meeting. I think this potentially is one of the best buildings on Columbia Pike. I think it's really come a long ways towards being sympathetic to the structure at the bottom of the modern streamline. And the bus station, if you will, bus stop and recess seems to be a natural thing that we recommended from the start, and it's finally come back. We asked also the original facades stay at the same lines rather than being set back from either Columbia Pike or Walter Reed. And we've come a long ways on that, and we don't have a bus shelter competing with the structure on the ground floor, which you can see in the upper left picture. That I think that besides HLRB and DRC, we're counting it as work, particularly transportation, whatever, a good deal on this, and given a fair amount, and giving up the bus station, and along with the idea of recess, and that is a major thing, and they've kept moving. They also came to the conclusion to keep moving at the original property lines. So I think this is really a real good example of what it's taken a while to sometimes bang our heads on the table or whatever. But I think the building of the proposal is really a compliment to the historic building and respectful of it. I think the window option on the curve on the upper left is more like the historic building. I think we could say it's equally or almost as good, but I prefer the window treatment on the curve on the upper left. But I think this is a really good job. I would not be surprised if this building could be potentially recommended for architectural achievement. I think this is really a really nice building at this point, and a really good example of what can be done respecting the historic fabric and historic designations coming up with this corner and stuff.
As the new guy, I just want to compliment everybody that's been involved. Watching the evolution of this project as completely fresh eyes, it's really gone from quite a bulky and kind of pushed its way into a design. That one down on the lower left is really quite elegant. It looks like a building that if they could have, they would have built in 1935. I like that window pattern on the lower one because I think it's much more in keeping with what would have been done in the 30s. If you look at buildings that were built in the 30s and early 40s, they have those very similar small windows. But again, it's not my call. I mean, they're both beautiful, but that really turned out to be a lovely and the elegant solution of moving the bus stop inside the building is just brilliant. And you'll end up with a building that really, I mean, that's always, those two buildings across from each other have always kind of defined Columbia Pike, the old theater and that building. And I think this will add to that definition without detracting in any way. A little concerned about the building that'll be next to it, but that's not our business today. The one behind it that shows up there looks like it sort of needs to be redesigned to go with the fancy building, but it really, everybody deserves a lot of compliments, the committee in particular and the architects and the builders, because you've really come up with what looks like an elegant solution to what's needed there. And it will be a beautiful building.
Mr. Davis, Dick would like to say something.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm at the risk of being duplicative. I'm just going to say that this is one of those projects that's just gotten better and better and better every time we see it. And I really like that lower right rendering of it. And I hope that's what we wind up going with. And, I really want to express my appreciation for the architects and everyone associated with the project for working with us on it, because it really does, I think now, really well reflect the original art modern building and streamlined modern building. And the crazy idea that Arlington County threw out there to move the building by 4 feet to accommodate a bus shelter was the dumbest idea I think we've ever had to deal with around the table. And I'm glad that you were able to deal with that successfully. So thank you. Good job.
I agree. As a Columbia Pike resident, this is definitely one of those link in buildings, and drive past it all the time. And I think what you've come up with is just perfect in terms of what it could represent. Just sort of, not trying to sound duplicative, but it just really is an amazing building.
I do have one question. Is the railing that's shown in this lower picture, like an addition?
The rail,
Would be considered?
yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That was something that was talked about during the DRC meeting. It is a railing that is needed for that to be compliant for safety reasons. And we kind of went over some possibilities, and the DRC felt that the kind of metal railing appearance is appropriate, as opposed to something else like maybe just safety glass.
You're talking about on the setback space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that setback space wide enough to be used for a restaurant or?
4 feet, they say.
Not so much as for a restaurant, but
Only 4 feet.
I believe there's balconies that face some of this,
Okay.
Sarah? Is that
That's
right?
correct. That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, there's a little 4-foot balcony for people.
Well, it's 4 feet from the new construction, and there is space where people can go out into that area.
Oh, actually, I'm gonna just slightly correct it. The
Thanks.
level 3 through 7 are stepped back 3 feet on Columbia Pike and 4 feet on Walter Reed. And yes, there would be space for some outdoor balcony areas. And yes, that railing is a safety requirement.
I'd like to add my voice that, I remember when the first iteration of this that we saw, it was like, oh no, they're destroying the building. And now it actually, I think it's going to be an improvement to Columbia Pike. We've come such a long way, and I don't want to say to be too repetitive here. I'm not sure that I agree with the fenestration issue. I'd actually like to see, I think the lower right looks a little bit too waffly and sort of calls too much attention to itself, but I'm not really sure about that. I'd sort of like to see it with the other fenestration there side by side. They haven't done the, without the cornice and stuff like that. But, and I just, to me, this building should sort of step back and let the other building define the corner. And I'm just afraid with that awfully window pattern, it makes call too much attention to itself. But I'd be willing to decide otherwise if I saw them side by side with the same. I really don't know, but I think it would be worthwhile looking at both of them.
I think it may also be because the lighting that was rendered onto this one on the bottom right is much more reflective than it is on the top left. And so all the windows are reflecting back out, which makes them glow a lot more, which is understandably why you would see that like waffle pattern, I think. And so I wonder if it were rendered without like bright light reflecting, it might look different.
Yeah. That's why I just think we should see them side by side rather than decide after we see that. And I think the applicant said that they'd like us to approve either one and let them make the decision. So I might be willing to go with that depending on, what we see once they come up with the design. Show us the design.
Yeah, I'd also like to see the two side by side. I think that the sort of the hinge on the sort of top left, that's one that sort of appealed to me more. I mean, not that the one on the bottom right doesn't appeal, but it would be nice to see them sort of rendered similarly, kind of just here's one looks better. But I mean, they're both, it's a winning project either way, but that's, yeah.
Don't they want to go to the county board next month?
Speak up.
Sarah, what's your timing on the project? If we were to have you come back for the August cycle, just to kind of show the side by side, would that cause a major delay with your project timeline?
I'm going to defer to John if that runs into any issues on your side, or if we do have the ability to do that. John, I don't know if you can unmute or not.
I did unmute.
Okay.
Hopefully I have.
You did.
We're muted, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
I mean, we have the time to do it. It is important that we get to the board on the schedule that we had. But if that's going to make people feel more comfortable, then I'm okay with coming back one more time for that.
So if that were the case.
I mean,
Go ahead.
That makes,
Sorry?
I mean, either wind, I think the building will be beautiful with either of these sets of windows. The only reason why the upper left, we liked the upper left was to give it more light in the residential units. Sometimes when you have a lot of windows, like it is on the lower right, it, sometimes can get very busy and stuff like that. So that's why we were trying to give it more open, bigger glass look for the corner, to pop the corner.
So tonight, the HLRB was going to be taking a vote to be able to have its COA so that they could go through the use permit process for this being a commercial form-based code. I'm Sarah, you're probably going to say it so much better than me, but we did have to take a vote. But if you would like to see a comparison side by side, we could ask them to come back. We could do multiple options. We could have them come back to the DRC and the HLRB if you'd like to see it. Sarah, your project team, everybody could get more, compliments on the design. So, more gold stars.
we do love that. So
Yes. So, but, other options, kind of like what I said before, we could leave it to the DRC to see how it's looking. So it could be almost like a conditional COA, go to the DRC, have them take a look at it, see what works best. Or tonight we could just say, you're not going to take a vote and you'll see them in August.
I don't understand what we're asking them to come back and show us.
So the windows in the center curve on the floors 3 through 7, they're separated, they're apart. We're asking them to group them together.
I think we're asking them to show us the lower right design with the upper left windows in it.
Yes.
Okay?
correct.
And
Yes.
with the same lighting quality so that we can actually compare apples and apples. But for my part, I'd be happy to leave that to a discussion between their architects and the DRC and for us to approve it today, because they've gone through a lot and that is a beautiful building. I don't think any of us are going to object to I won't object to either window pattern. And I think between these two sets of architects, they clearly know what they're doing with this design.
Yeah, I think the applicant asked for us to approve both, and I'd be willing to approve both or either.
Well, I don't think they're talking about both. They're talking about the one on the lower right and something like it. And I forget the name of our new member who suggested that we approve both of those. I'm fine with that, but I don't know what the other one looks like. I mean, I heard the architect explain it, and I get that, and I think I would be fine with what they came back with, but I'm not fine with the one on the upper left as it's currently depicted.
I mean,
I don't think we're suggesting that. We're suggesting that we like the building on the lower right, but that many of us are comfortable with that building on the lower right having a curved window pattern that's the way it is on the lower right, or that's modified to use more like the pattern that's in the curve on the upper left. But the building we like is the one that we all seem to very much like is the one on the lower right.
Can we conditionally approve it with it going back to DRC?
Someone could make that motion.
Yeah.
I'm fine conditionally approving it and leaving it to the DRC for the final say.
All right, well, let's see.
1 second to mute somebody.
Okay, so with that, let me see. So I'll get the motion if I can do it. I move that the HLRB approve COA 22-22 proposed design for redevelop. I move that HLRB conditionally approve COA 22-22, the proposed design for redevelopment project at the Elkins Building, pending,
Subject to approval of the DRC.
subject to approval of the DRC.
Did you catch that?
I did. Okay, great.
Let's call the roll.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Ham?
Yes.
Mr. Hanley?
Yes.
Mr. Laporte?
Yes.
Ms. Meyer? Yes. Ms. Myers?
Yes.
Mr. Winchell?
Yes.
And Mr. Woodruff.
Yes.
That was unanimous.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Don't be strangers.
All right. Next project.
Yes, I'll have to reshare.
Hold on a second. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the Riesland. Would the applicants like to come up to the table? If there's enough chairs, if you all would like to join the team, you all are here.
Yeah, I think
Something left, space for one of
We're all
us.
friends.
Yeah.
We can.
Get cozy.
Sorry.
Jerry, can you move down a little? Thank you.
So everyone, I'm just going to bear with me. I'm going to summarize my staff report. I've been able to get it so it's less pages each time. And then I'll hand over the keyboard to you all so that you can do the presentation after. So this project is for Riesland. The historic Reeves farmhouse was constructed in circa 1900 and is located in the Boulevard Manor neighborhood. The property became a local historic district in 2004, and a county-held easement protecting the exterior was recorded in 2018. In 2017, Habitat for Humanity of Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia approached Arlington County and proposed a rehabilitation and adaptive reuse of the historic farmhouse as a group home for residents with developmental disabilities. In February 2020, Arlington County and Habitat reached a non-binding agreement for the project with a signed letter of intent, which I'll reference as the LOI. The Reeves Farmhouse project team consists of LARSH of Greater Washington, D.C., Homemade National Capital Region, and Habitat. The last that the HLB heard this project, which is kind of surprising to me because I feel like I talk about it every day, was during the April cycle review with the DRC and the HLRB. During that April meeting, the HLRB reviewed the proposed massing and overall design concepts for the restoration of the exterior of the historic farmhouse and the construction of 2 new additions. Let me see. I'm gonna leave this to let this sit. So I'm gonna go back. The applicant sought preliminary HLRB approval of the COA to satisfy one of the main conditions of the signed LOI. The HLRB considered all aspects of the proposal and determined that a preliminary COA could be granted at that time, but further design details were needed prior to issuance of a final COA, which is required in the LOI. The applicants are currently returning to the HLRB for their final COA, which includes additional details on materials and other specifications. The proposal is there's a lot, and Habitat's proposal includes more details involving the restoration of the farmhouse exterior, the new additions at the rear elevation, and specific materials that will be proposed on both. And the applicant will provide that all in their presentation, but I'll give you a bit of a preview when I get to my recommendation statement. The DRC reviewed these additional details. The project team explained their approach on many different things, so I'll just highlight some of the key things. For example, there was a discussion about the window replacement. So currently the historic farmhouse has wood windows, and they are proposing an in-kind wood replacement of those windows with a 1/1 pattern. They also are proposing 1/1 vinyl windows for the addition aspect of this project. And they are also proposing vinyl windows in the dormers on the historic farmhouse because there are there's only a dormer on the back part. They're putting a dormer on the front, which you'll see when we get to those in the applicant's presentation. Farmhouse also has two 6/6 wood windows on the second floor, and the applicant would like to replace them and requested some clarification from the DRC if these windows should still be 6/6 or if they can go to 1/1s. And the DRC member stated that they were comfortable with changing the configuration to 1/1s. Concerning the historic farmhouse roof, the applicants are proposing to replace the existing asphalt with new dimensional asphalt shingles. Also on the historic farmhouse, they're proposing that the materials along the roof fascia and soffit on the eaves will be pre-finished PVC trim, and the existing wood roof eave will remain if it is in good condition, or it will be replaced in kind and repainted to match existing if in poor condition. Front porch wood eaves will remain and be prepped, repainted, or replaced in kind to match existing, and the DRC did not see an issue with the use of this synthetic material at the roof eaves. And there was discussion that occurred about seeing if possibly a metal seam roof material could be considered for the front porch roof on the historic farmhouse instead of asphalt shingles. So now I'll go into my recommendation, which is a bit lengthy, but this is kind of the moment. HP staff recommends approval of the subject application as submitted and supports the proposed restoration renovation plan for Riesland. Since the Riesland LHD does not have adopted historic design guidelines, the HP staff and the HALRB must consider all proposed alterations according to the guidance provided in the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation. As such, the subject application complies to standards number 2, 5, 6, and 9. There'll be a quiz afterwards if everybody knows what those are. Staff agrees that the proposed exterior restoration plan is both appropriate and sensitive to the character-defining features of the historic farmhouse, thereby complying with standard number 2. The repair or in-kind replacement of the exterior materials and or features, including the 1/1 wood windows on the historic farmhouse, follows standards number 5 and number 6. The removal of the existing vinyl aluminum siding and trim and restoration of any existing wood siding and trim likewise follows standards number 5 and number 6. The removal of the existing asphalt shingles and or existing metal roof and replacement with new dimensional asphalt shingles complies with standard number 6, as does the in-kind replacement of the main entrance door and the removal construction of the brick chimneys. Following standards number 9, the proposed wood railings and wood ramp on the front porch will not detract from the overall design, function, or aesthetics of this historic design feature. Plus, will allow the farmhouse to become ADA compliant, which is an essential requirement for the new residents. The construction of a new shed roof dormer on the farmhouse north roof ridge follows standard number 9 and is compatible in design to an existing dormer located on the 1911 section of the house. Only former bullets. Hold on with me. The installation of the vinyl fixed windows and the new dormers will distinguish between the historic and the new construction and will not detract from the overall design, function, or aesthetics of the historic farmhouse. Proposed 1- and 2-story windows will not detract from the scale or massing of the historic farmhouse, as their designs are compatible with the existing vernacular architecture. Proposed use of synthetic materials on the additions is compatible to the overall design and character-defining features and materials on the historic farmhouse, as well as helps distinguish the historic and new construction, thereby meeting standard number 9. And lastly, the proposal does not conflict with the intent guidance of the recorded county held exterior preservation easement. The final COA is issued. Staff will seek additional approvals from the county manager as per the easement process for these major modifications. Thank you for letting me get through that. And now I will turn it over to the applicant to provide a presentation.
Thanks. I'm Mike Spots with Habitat DC Nova. I'll be brief because I'm sure you want to see the design, but just want to sort of acknowledge our partners in the room. Scott Matties from Weinstein Associates, our architect, has been working through everything. Luke Smith with Larson Greater Washington, D.C. I'll talk more about Larson just briefly in a second, but I also want to acknowledge Homemade of the National Capital Region, who is in many ways making this project possible by bringing their contractor partners to this project that'll bring the expertise and skill that's necessary to do such a sensitive rehabilitation project, given the importance of the property and the condition of the property. I want to just mention that I always like to emphasize the use case for this. And yes, this is about historic preservation, but it's also about the people that are going to be living in the home when the project is complete. LARSH provides homes and supportive services for adults with intellectual disabilities when they're living caregivers that live as a family and so they refer to the adults with intellectual disabilities as core members. So the large staff and the core members live together as a family, as neighbors. They have existing homes in Arlington that really, it's really, and I think Luke has referred to it as it's a family. It's a different type of family, but it is still a family. So, one of the things that we like to keep in mind as we talk about some of the design decisions that are made is that we're keeping these this use case in mind, that the property, we want it to stand in perpetuity, or as long as the building can any building can reasonably stand, but we also want it to be a home for the people that are going to live there for equally as long. So I want to thank the project team, but also county staff that has worked tirelessly with us on this project to make sure that we are conforming with both the intent, with the letter of law and the spirit of the historic preservation easement. I think that they've really helped us understand the requirements and what needs to be done to get a final certificate of appropriateness. So hopefully today's conversation is relatively smooth, and if it is, that we have county staff's guidance and tireless efforts to thank for that. So without further ado, I'll hand it off to Scott to talk about the design.
I want to associate with my appreciation for Mike. County staff has been, Cynthia and Warren have been really very, very helpful, and proactive and great to work with.
Should be able to do the arrows, move back and forth.
Is there a zooming function on this?
Now you're asking something specific. I can try.
You can zoom, you just have to go out of full screen view and then, yes. And now we will give you the mouse.
Now you get full control.
Our own Vanna White.
Thank you. Okay, so I also don't have a lot to say. I think that was a great report. What I do want to do is figure out the mouse first. Sorry, in the AE industry, we're Bluebeam people. We're not Adobe people in terms of Acrobat. We use Creative Suite, but not
Nobody wants to be.
Acrobat.
But we can pause here on this view
Yeah.
if you want.
So, well, let me just go back one real quick just to knock it out. So I did a couple things I do want to highlight the changes. So last time when we got the concept approval from the body, there have been a few changes. Nothing in the building design has changed. I'll highlight the minor modifications in terms of materiality. But one thing that has changed, and it's really an immaterial change, we think, but I just want to make sure everybody's on board on this very washed out site plan, which you can't see. Hopefully you were able to see it on your screen. Is that we did meet with Fire Marshal, Arlington County Fire Marshal, and talked about EMS access to the site to serve the building once it's complete. They, I'll say politely, requested very strongly that we provide a new fire lane, a 20-foot wide fire lane. We're widening the entry driveway. It comes in off of Manchester, Pipestone lot, and then terminates here. What you can't see, unfortunately, in this washout is there's a fire EMS vehicle turnaround here. Most of that, 90+% of what we're doing to expand that is on county property, off the Pipestone lot, not in the historic easement. But there, because that's sort of a material change. What we talked about last time, I just want to make sure we highlight that. The next, so then I want to go to Cynthia's favorite.
Yes. Just take a moment, take it in.
It was an expression of glee when we first
And someone in community said, "Is that me?" Because they use it. Is that me? I'm like, no, we haven't actually built that part of it. Like, oh, it looks a lot like me. I want to live there.
Well,
It's struck a chord.
I love it. That's great. So again, the design that we presented last time hasn't changed. Clearly, there's more detail to see here. This is a more realistic rendering than the very conceptual massing studies that we had last time. But it gives you a much more detailed flavor of the character of the historic and what we're proposing with the one story from this view. With the second story, you can see just a hint of it there. Beyond. So to summarize the sort of the overall approach and materiality to build on what Lauren has said in a very detailed manner, the existing structure, historic structure, is an exterior restoration. So we'll be removing the existing aluminum siding, inspecting what's there, prepping and painting to the extent it's sound and good condition, replacing in kind with wood siding to match to the extent it's not. And we'll be doing that for the siding, for the window casings, etc. For the, this is the new ramp, so that's all new, but it's all wood railing down here where you can touch it and feel it and see it up close. As Lauren mentioned, we did propose, and Mari and Andy seemed favorable to it, is where it's high up, it's out of reach, to use synthetic materials in the eave construction for eaves, soffit fascias, breakboards, etc. up in the roof area, because it's high up, visually indistinguishable from wood. You can't touch it. And as part of what we talked about last time, excuse me, we had, of course, reviewed the original Milner report. We weren't unaware at the last meeting, we learned that there was an update to it in 2011. We did get that. And the delta between 2004 and 2011, it did note some more substantial deterioration in the soffit material that exists. So for us, that makes sense to do that. I also want to highlight, this is the shed dormer that's in addition, technically, I guess, that's proposed to allow an interior stair to go up and serve the attic space. There's a finished attic space here that's partial for the entire attic. That will be administrative space, not for board members. But because that is A, new, and B, again, so high up in the, away from close-up view, not only we're proposing synthetic materials in the roofing, but also using synthetic material for the little bit of siding that defines the walls of the dormer, and proposing vinyl windows here instead of wood. The windows are all proposed as, when we talked last time, we were proposing aluminum clad wood for everything, for existing and new. Based on the discussion last time, we're on board with providing in-kind painted wood windows in the historic structure, 1/1 lights, and it doesn't show up on this rendering, but around the back, there are the two windows. We'll see in an elevation. There are two windows that are 6/6, and we talked with the DRC about, does it make sense to replace just those two at 6/6? And I think we had a good discussion. We landed on those being favorable to those being 1/1, so there's consistency. Those will be wood, painted wood, but 1/1. The compensating factor here, though, is that now we need to compensate the budget a little bit with the painted wood windows in kind replacement. So in the addition, we're proposing vinyl windows to compensate on a budgetary front for that. Again, with discussion with DRC, we feel like we got to read on that. Those are the only material differences, really, that from what we talked about and when we got the concept. This, and I'll highlight a couple things for Andy, particularly, and Mari, that we talked about last time. Again, sorry, it's very much. When we talked at the DRC, we had an example here that was wood grain hardy. We're using smooth. It's going to be painted smooth. The window sections that we showed were actually pavement windows for whatever reason. These are the double wood sections that we're proposing. This product in particular, there's a cut sheet in the product. And then lastly, Andy's recommendation and reminding me, I dug out my Smoot catalog, and so these are real porch component, porch rail, copper wall. Good old Smoot catalog. That's really the only difference from last time when we talked. And then, again, it's very hard to read because it's washed out. Again, we're not changing the design or the proposed material distribution. We just added a lot more notes so that it's very, we really, labeled each piece apart very specifically. As Lauren also mentioned, down here at the front porch, that's restoration, particularly in the eve materials. That's to the extent we find a lot of eve materials that will be replaced in kind as well. We're not proposing synthetic or close to the I'm not sure I have anything more to say. I'm happy to answer any questions. Maybe put it up to discussion.
Scott, can you show the 2 windows that are the 6
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's these 2 windows, this one and this one. So the addition starts here. This is the 2-story portion of the addition. These are the 2 windows that are today 6/6. I'm not sure we know that they're original windows. We don't think they are, but they are existing 1 and 6/6. So it's as Andy mentioned, I think at the DRC, they're to the rear. They're away from the public view, so to speak. They're in the back of the home, so not as prominent as say the residential. That's all I got. Happy to answer questions or discuss. Thank you.
Should we hear from the DRC?
Yeah. Andy, DRC.
Well, actually, I first got into this building in 2003 when I was working with the John Billman Associates. And I'm responsible, I guess, for a lot of initial investigation.
You speak to the audience, please.
Responsible for a lot of the initial selective demolition to review the structural character of it and to come up with some thoughts about how the house was built, because it evolved over time. The rear 1-story portion of it is the oldest part of the structures on the house, and it was moved after the second portion, which is the 2-story balloon frame structure with the cable base in front. And then we've got an addition out the side, which is I think about 18 grand, something like that. To clarify that this structure was originally part of, was acquired as part of 4 Mile Run, and 4 Mile Run Park. The house sits on the west hill of snow sledding in Arlington that drops down to 4 Mile Run from the front porch area. The real change, and it's to the, I think it's I originally had some comments about it. The porch never had handrails or anything. It just was there and enjoyed viewing down to the Well Creek. The house, really only the front of the house is visible from public trail along 4 Mile Run. The rest of the house is surrounded by the backyards of horseshoe-shaped development that was took part of the farmland. So they see the sides from their backyards and sides back. I think the last section with the second floor with the 6/6 windows is an addition on top of the original. It was literally dragged down. It's really was a difficult part of this house was the fact that once the county building department got into it, there were all sorts of discussions. The house sits basically on the grade with the ground floor choice, probably 6 inches above grade at the most. There's no real crawl space unless you pull between the choice. The rear section, the oldest part, was dragged from up the hill further down, and you can actually see the plow marks of the choice. And kind of hold the kitchen floor there on that one. I think this is the county has struggled with what to do with this house. And there was thoughts about it would be some sort of community building, and then with all the problems of the house, we decided that wasn't good. And the county didn't want to go to the expense, those expenses. So we've got this original parkland, or purchased the parkland, and it was left with the previous farmstead. The barn's gone, the milk sheds tilted and braced, safety hazard. But some sort of communal use was, I think, that a lot of people had in mind, and I think this particular use that's been proposed now is really the best kind of use, I think, for this house. A lot more people will get to appreciate it. It will be expanded, and the public will still have a really good view, if you will, from 4 Mile Run, which is really the front facade. And basically, see the front porch, cable front, and that extension with the cable to the side. But the rest of this is really, I think, forms a real nice communal thing set within a park, or an extension of the park. So I think it's a kind of unique setting and exciting that will be appreciated. And I think it's good news for the old farmstead. It has had problems and deterioration over a number of years. Just hoping to save some of the interior finishes. There's a boys' bedroom that's
We're already talking about the wallpaper.
Yeah.
Some pictures of some of the stuff. The girls' bedroom is various pink things. I can't remember. Anyway, there's a lot of family history still left in the house that I think some use of some of that would be good. I also think that we're proposing to perhaps take the first floor out and make it basically the first floor and choice out, and you're going to run your heating system elsewhere, so we're not going to have to. At one point, the county proposed to jack the house up to get a crawl space underneath there, so that you can do conventional HVAC ductwork, and that would have been a real disaster for the house. So I think this proposal is really good. I think that most of the trim is high up on the second floor. And I think they've done a really good job, and I think given the people who live here, the handrail on the porch is good. Thank you.
Issues up before the board. Any other comments or questions or applicants?
We had an event at the farmhouse where we welcomed the Reeves family to come and share some stories in June. And one of the daughters of the Reeves farmhouse, of Mr. and Mrs. Reeves, shared that when her dad died, when the house was passed along, he reminded her that it's just a home. The people who live in it, people who live in it, it's just a house, and the people who live in it make a home. And she said how she couldn't think of a better group to us make a home. And then someone said, but it belongs to all of us. And I just want to echo that in terms of it being a community resource. It really does belong to the county. We get to live in it. And part of our whole approach is to create a space for inclusion, to create a space for people with intellectual disabilities who are often not seen in our neighborhoods and our communities, to have the opportunities to welcome people into their homes. Whenever as soon as we get this, will be a resource. And I can speak on behalf of the community. I'm really, really excited to invite each one of you. Who are those people you're meeting with tomorrow? Well, we get to invite them to dinner, so please invite them as soon as humanly possible.
So I actually think this is a much better use than as a community center. I mean, it is a home and it maintains it as a home. And I think it's really actually a brilliant repurposing of a building that was very likely to get torn down 5 or 10 years ago. It sounded like when you were following what the county was saying. I have a question though. I come from a dairy family, and I think the fact that it's a dairy would be a nice thing to figure out what you've got left. Is the milk barn beyond rescue as being something like it could be a recreation facility for the people who live in the house?
The milk house.
The milk shed.
Yeah, thank you.
The barn,
Oh, it's not a milking barn.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, but it is the last remaining outbuilding.
Yeah.
Affiliated.
What's it made of?
with the dairy farm. It's frame.
Oh, so it's old.
It's old. It's had quite a bit of structural support over the years.
Well, I heard it's propped up.
It's been a bone of contention for this board for a while.
Okay,
but
I'm
it's
sorry.
It's owned by the county.
It is also a nesting area for turkey vultures at the moment.
Well, that's very important.
Every time I go by, I
Okay,
look
now.
up at the milk shed and there's
I heard the county should deed this over to the home.
We haven't figured out a plan yet.
So I'll say that, yeah, the milk shed is not part of our scope. It's not part of the
I know.
parcel that will be conveyed to us. The sort of, that one element of the fire lane and the fire truck turnaround that we have to build that kind of creates that, I know the original vision, not all of which was our project, but the original vision included the restoration of the milk shed and then a walking path to the milk shed. Well, you'll get pretty much a walking path via the fire lane now. But we currently are not touching milk sheds right now.
Ray, I would mention that there's like a massive concrete barrel inside of it that for containing the milk. So it's not, you can't go in it. It's one of the reasons that it's failing. And so it's not usable right now. It would.
Oh, I didn't assume it was usable.
It's a conversation for another day.
Right.
Well, there's no more comments or questions, so we can make a motion. I mean, again, I thank you for all your hard work on this. Let's make a motion to approve the COA. I move that the HALRB approve COA 23-16 for design for rehabilitation and rehabilitation additions at Reeveland Farmhouse in the Reeveland Historical District.
Second.
call the roll.
All right, there's a big moment, everyone. Mr. Aiken,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Ham,
Yes.
Mr. Hanley,
Yes.
Mr. Laporte.
Yes, I thought this day would never come.
You and me both. Ms. Meyer,
Yes.
Ms. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Winchell,
Yes.
and Mr. Woodruff. I think is no longer on the call.
Yeah.
Okay. So it is unanimous.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I say one thing, Mr. Chair, before
Please.
everyone leaves? So I echo what Mr. Laporte said about thinking this day would never come. This is a project that I've been working on pretty much my entire career here with the county. And when I came back from maternity leave 18 plus years ago, this became a local historic district. So we've been working on it at the staff level for that long. And I want to say too that I really appreciate working with this wonderful team. I think it really epitomizes what we can do as a county government with local willing partners. So thank you for all of your dedication to this. And I really think this project is a perfect manifestation of what we can do that's creative, that's collaborative. And I think it really will be a role model example of projects for decades to come. So this is a great moment. I'm sorry I had to say it.
You should be proud to say.
I want to reiterate how great county staff has been. We are engaging probably, and this is probably a slight exaggeration, but approximately 25 county departments.
No, you're right.
It feels like it.
And I actually in my prior role, I was studying my roles as a researcher who looked at best practices in housing development, local government practices to support affordable housing. And this is, I'm not just sucking up to the county when I say that this has been a case study in interdepartmental coordination and moving difficult projects forward. So I want to thank county staff who've been a pleasure to work with. And we are going to be working a lot more with you moving forward. It's not over yet, and we're
And a
looking
special
forward.
shout out to Lauren for
Yeah.
making
Yeah.
all that interdepartmental magic happen,
Yes.
because it's been very, very challenging.
Yes, and we look forward to when, as this project moves forward, we'll be sharing various milestones, groundbreakings, ribbon cuttings, etc.
We'll be offering volunteer opportunities.
Volunteer opportunities, donation opportunities.
Yeah, there are definitely donation opportunities. Volunteer opportunities are to be determined because of some of the structural elements, and it's all about health and safety as far as that's concerned. But we're thinking through the possibilities there, and we will certainly be keeping you posted. Yes. So thank you.
Great.
Bravo.
Thank you very much.
Did everyone get copies of our the draft markers? So we now have 3 different parts. We have the original packet that is paper clipped together, and then we have Gray's edits, and we have a proposed edit from the applicant as well that came in this afternoon. So I'll push those down there. Let me get the right.
There's a new one from this afternoon.
Yes. Yes, the fun doesn't stop. Constant.
So I want to apologize to the board for submitting a comment because, it's pretty, I didn't mean to be appearing arrogant. I just meant to share this with you
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
as
no,
an
but,
idea for you to think about.
oh, no, that's the point.
All right.
We want everyone to come forward with ideas and recommendations, and there are
It's a little
not too many
presumptuous.
cooks in the kitchen. We need as many cooks as we can. I don't know what the right metaphor is for.
Okay.
So let me,
Serena, we might have people online.
yes, we do, I know. So I just wanted to do a small introduction and then invite our applicant to speak. So this was presented to us by the trustees of the Mount Olive Baptist Church. They had their 150th anniversary this year, which is really exciting. And they have really a super interesting story, and they have moved mountains to get to this moment. And we're really excited to be able to present a little bit of their history and make sure that people who are walking by the site know how much it has contributed to Arlington and how it's connected to the rest of Arlington's history. So Ms. Dangerfield, would you like to add a few words?
Good evening, everyone. First thing, if I could just point out a small minor detail on the page that says Staff Draft 1, in parentheses, you mentioned Mount Salvation. We're Mount Olive.
Well, I think I was talking about the Mount Salvation marker, because I think I had meant to include a copy of the Mount Salvation marker because it showed the maximum number of letters, whereas this, I was able last minute to get the draft which included your text, because before they hadn't submitted that to me. So do not worry, I've not gotten you mixed up.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Yvonne Dangerfield, and with me tonight is Linda Briggs, also from Mount Olive Baptist Church. Thank you for being here so late this evening to hear our request. I believe you've just been handed a last draft that we revised again after the staff had made some changes. There were a few things, and mind you, Mount Olive is our church family, and so it's very personal to us. And so there were a few things that were still very important to us that we wanted to have reflected. And one of the things was the Old Bell Church. And that was the original church in Freedman's Village where we originated from. Many of you may be familiar with Mount Zion Baptist Church in the Green Valley area. Both of our churches came from the Old Bell Church in Freedman's Village. And on Mount Zion's marker, I believe it also acknowledges the Old Bell Church. So that was something that is very important to us that we very much would like to see included because it's like maintaining our original story. Another piece kind of going on in the draft that staff had, one of the comments is correct, and that's that the church adapted and flourished, and that we've been a champion for civil rights, and that we were the first African-American church in Arlington to broadcast on the radio. That is true, but that was kind of something that we thought were just kind of small details. I'm in education, and we always talk about the big picture. And so going down to where it talks about the line that's third from the bottom that says serves as a hub for the church's commitment to its Christian mission. That was another key point that's very personal to us. When the draft was done, the word Christian was left off, but we're a Christian church, and so for us, that is really an important, almost non-negotiable for us in terms of describing our legacy. And we love the part that you had celebrated with us the 150 years, but the way it's written, if someone were to read it 5 years from now, it almost sounds like our work was concluded at the end of 150 years, and our work is not done, it is continuing. And so we'd like to suggest that the 150 years be acknowledged, but that it be captured in that last statement that says erected in 2023 by Arlington County for the church's 150th anniversary. And the only other thing, and I want to go back with that because I was talking with Ms. Bollinger about the difference in the dates, and I tried to call Pastor to see if I had made a mistake with something. And so the 1893 is something that I would like to get back to you on after doing some research, just to kind of verify. When we talk about the church renaming itself, that is true. And a new church was erected in 1893, but I want to verify the year that the church was actually renamed. And so that was a quick summation, given that it's after 9 o'clock. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have that I can answer.
Thank you. And yes, so I did edit that text on the image you see on the screen, but in the text she had written, in 1874, the church was renamed Mount Olive Baptist Church and the land was acquired in 1893, but we believe it may have happened at a different date. So she is going to confirm that since that I had 1893 in my research, and she's just going to make sure. Did anyone, other members of your congregation want to speak?
Linda's here. I told her she would not have to say anything. I don't know if there's anything she'd like to add. Linda is the chair for the History Subcommittee for our 150th anniversary. Linda, did you want to add anything?
Oh, no, I think that you have captured everything quite well. So hopefully we can go forth with what you have presented.
Okay, thank you, Linda.
Great, so you have a number of different edits in front of you. The one that is in capitals in the serif font is the most recent from the applicant, and then you have the packet and Gray's suggestions. How? First reactions.
I think it's essential that whatever gets done in the end includes all of the things that we were just presented with by Mrs. Dangerfield as being critically important to the community. So having them share with us what's most important to include in this, I think is essential. The dates are really confusing in this, though. I think that we need to clarify what happened when, and was there a renaming of an existing church, or was there a new church? I mean, it's not really clear what the timeline was, right? And that's pretty important to get right, because once this plat goes up, it'll be the history.
Yes, and we'll make sure that we have the accurate date. To respond to your statement, the church was named Antioch Baptist Church. And at the time, there was a Reverend Waller who was the pastor, and his wife had actually suggested that the church be renamed to Mount Olive. And so I just need to go back and just double check to verify the date of when she suggested the renaming, because the church was renamed at that time.
This is just a minor point, but on line 4, second sentence, it looks like it starts with a 1 instead of an I.
Yes, so I will rewrite everything.
Okay, yes.
I also will have to check that if it's the word count, but yes, I noticed that too.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
I had a couple, actually, I've seen a few drafts of this, okay, and I think it's improved as it's gone along. I especially like the addition, I like the erected in 2022 by Arlington County for the church's 150th anniversary. I think that's okay. We don't usually do that, but I
We
think
have to see if that fits.
okay,
Yes.
but I think it's really good because it's like kind of captures the moment, okay? And so I think we should make an exception for do that. I like the addition of the Old Bell Church because I know that's, that adds some history to it. I think there's, this talks about Freedman's Village being a model community, and, model community has a kind of meaning in our society. And if you look at Wikipedia, they used the term refugee camp for Freedman's Village. It wasn't supposed to be a permanent community. It was a model refugee camp. I'm not sure if I want to use that language, but I don't think we should use the language model community, because that sounds like, we're talking about Reston or something like that. It was supposed to be a place where formerly enslaved people could be housed and get an education.
On a temporary
A temporary
basis.
thing, so it wasn't, and
Wasn't the hope that they would be able to model after it and create other similar opportunities?
yes, but it would a model refugee camp, okay, not a model community, I think.
Yeah, well, we definitely won't use refugee
It's
camps.
supposed to be temporary.
And I think your comment about model is something that we could look at again as well. I believe that that was a statement that came from the staff's original draft. In trying to look at it, there were some things that we held very close to the heart, like the Old Bell Church, the mention of a Christian mission. And so with some of the things we tried to kind of work along with what had been suggested. And if I'm not mistaken, I think model was something that we borrowed from the original staff draft, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't have any problem with the word model, but the term model
can look at
community
it.
is what I'm talking about. And then a previous draft had talked about Freedman's Village being established during the Civil War, which it was, okay? And this, in the fourth line, it says a federally established model community during Reconstruction. So I think the church was established during Reconstruction, but Freedman's Village was established during the Civil War. So we have to get the time, like as Grace said, the timing here, the timeline is not clear from this language that we're looking at. And so, I don't know exactly how you want to say that. We've taken out the reference to Freedman's Village being established during the Civil War, which is fine with me if we don't want to say that. We have to get the timing right. Then the second sentence seems to me it's a pretty run-on sentences. Maybe we could turn it into two sentences.
I think once we find the date, because I think Yvonne may find that that it was renamed and built at the same time. So if it's the same year, then we can make it one sentence. So I think the understanding when that date is will help us also, because we need, depending on which order it's in, if it was the congregation was renamed before the church building was built, then we want to put in the other order. So I agree though that is mainly written. And I wanted to take to heart, you did send language about the apostrophe in Freedman's Village. We've seen it with, we've seen it without. We were writing it based on the language that we had used in the African American booklet, but it has also been seen with the apostrophe.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with that controversy. In fact, when they built the Freedman's Village Bridge, there was this huge controversy. And the spelling that you have here is the spelling that they decided for the Freedman's Village Bridge after many meetings and all research. And I think let's just go with this because there's a previous group that did all this research and that's what they came. I mean, maybe there's new discoveries, but I'm not aware of them. This is fine. You could make arguments for and against that they were made, but I think this is anyway. And
yes,
then
the name Freedman's comes up in every discussion. If it's Freedman's, the apostrophe, every circle you're in, it comes up as a discussion piece.
right, and then I would take out the word when you say this present site. I would just say this site. Take out the word present. I don't think it's necessary. It's kind of unduly formal. And I would take out the words in 1942 because, you're saying in 1944 and 1942, it's it's reverse chronological order. So if you want to say 1944, I think that's fine, but just drop 19. It's not important when one of them is important, but both of them aren't. It's just confusing, I think. And then in the last sentence, I would have churches be lowercase and anniversary be lowercase also.
So it's going to be capitalized.
It's going to be capitalized.
Yeah,
Forget. Okay.
Sorry, remind me, the run-on sentence you were worried about, was it the 1893 or was it the congregation relocated?
It's all the same sentence, so.
Starts in 1874, that one.
Okay, I didn't
Yes.
see.
No, I think it's two sentences.
Okay, it is two sentences. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I maybe I missed the period, okay.
Well, I think you can take out that, if it is two dates, you can take out the and.
A lot of
Period
this
after
will get
church.
clear once we have the dates.
Take out the and it might save a little more room.
I think it's premature to. Can I just ask if you all have consulted with the Black History Museum about this? Because they have done a lot of deep research on Freedman's Village.
Yes, no, I've done, and I've done a fair amount of research
Okay.
as well. But yes, I chat with Scott quite often. But yes, I wanted to say I like the addition also of the Old Bell Church. I hadn't included it at first because I thought Old Bell Church, Antioch Church, Mount Olive, I thought Mount Olive was the most important part, but since reviewing the Mount Zion marker, I do like that it connects those churches. I think it connects the congregations through time, across space, which I really enjoy. And then I think the adding the information about the Gothic Revival Church has been valuable because it connects it back to the building.
Okay, so if I can just kind of recap that, just make sure I've captured everything that you were targeting. At the very beginning, it was just the timing with the Civil War. Was it Freedman's Village? Was it the church origin? And then next, just verification of the 1893. And then later in the document, removing the word present, and then removing the year 1942. Did I get everything that you mentioned?
Yes, does anyone else have edits?
Oh, and the word model.
Except that, a federally established model community during Reconstruction, that has to be cleared up to say something that's accurate and, well written.
Yeah. I know Carmela's also on the committee. Carmela, I know you looked at this marker.
She had to drop out.
Oh, she had to drop out. Oh, never mind. Okay. Jake, do you have any comments?
He's off.
Never mind. Why? Yeah, never mind. Sorry. Okay, just us. So we could think well, it depends how the commissioners feel if I can. So we do want to get it in the ground before the end of the year or as soon as possible because of the anniversary. And so we can work with Jerry, and then also I would need to do some back and forth once we like the language to Lakeshore Industries that we can actually get it onto the aluminium marker. And so it's up to you if you wanted to come back or whether yes.
Could we approve it by email if you send it to us?
So you would have to approve it now, and I can certainly share it with you and Jerry and anyone who's interested by email once you've kind of made a motion to approve the language and said with further modifications by staff and the commissioners and the applicants.
Technical and grammatical changes
Right.
as necessary or something technical. What's
Clarifications.
And chronological, because
Yeah.
the chronology is sort of one of the big issues here.
I mean, there's a lot that needs to be fixed.
But it can certainly come back to next month because it's August and then it could be complete.
I think even if you approved it in August, that still gives us ample time to get approved and wait for manufacturer.
And now that you know that you support the marker, I can get the PO working, and that way we can have it ready to manufacture day after you approve the language. How does that sound to you, Ms. Dangerfield?
That sounds workable.
Okay, so this will be coming back in August. In the meantime, I will work with Jerry and Gray and anyone who would like to on the language to get it shored up. So it might be just a bit of back and forth.
And
with
Ms.
Ms.
Dangerfield.
Right, and then I'll get it to Ms. Dangerfield to make sure she likes it. And then we will get it to Lakeshore Industries to find out if it's gonna fit. And then we will do it again.
Because that's what we do.
Yes. So thank you so much, Ms. Dangerfield, for your time and
And thank you all. We really appreciate the feedback and you're working with us. As I said, this is our church. It's very personal and it's very challenging summing up 150 years and 21 lines. Thank you.
Certainly is. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.
You too. Okay, so we are going back to, here we go. Chairman's report.
In terms of board, it'll be pretty short. You kind of touched on actually just now, actually. If anybody else is interested in the purple marker committee, just please let, I guess, staff know, is sort of more eyes and more insights. It's helpful.
And we may, once we do that, like maybe talk about establishing some more guidelines within the committee so that we can review everything more formally if Jerry and anyone else is interested on a more regular basis.
Otherwise, that was it. That's it.
Okay. Just a few quick staff updates, given the time. So in terms of the Historic and Cultural Resources Plan, we had initially planned to bring the revised draft back to you all in August for any last questions, comments, hopefully get a motion of support. We are going to postpone that until September, so we can. Our aim is to get the next revised draft out to the public in the middle of August. So then that way you'll have a few weeks to review it before the meeting. So plan on the regular meeting on September 20th to be the blessing for the plan document. And then we also have a community engagement opportunity, and I'll turn to Michael to make that request.
So the county fair is coming up. We went last year and it was a really successful spot to engage with new people that have never talked to the program before. So we're going to go again this year. It's from August 16th through the 20th, but we're only going to be staffing our table from August 18th through the 20th, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we could use some assistance with HALRB members coming and helping us at the table. So I'm going to read out the times, but I can also send this in an email. And if anybody's interested in coming with us, there will always be a staff person at the table. So you won't be on your own trying to answer questions. But we would really love the additional engagement. So the first shift is Friday, the 18th from 4 to 7. And I should say you do not need to commit to the entire time frame because we'll have a staff member there for the whole time. So even if you can only show up for like an hour, it would be welcome. Saturday, the 19th is from 12 to 4 p.m. And then Sunday is from 4 to 7. So again, I can follow up with an email, but if anybody's interested or knows they're available, you can go ahead and let me know and I'll sign you up.
And even if you aren't available or don't sign up, but you do come in those times, come and say hi. Even if you're embarrassed that you didn't agree to volunteer, we're fine. We might hide otherwise. I don't know. I might see a shifty character wandering around with like, their hood up. I'm like, that looks like a member of the HL.
You have to go in costume.
You do now.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And then the last thing I will mention is I know there was some interest, and Jerry, you had talked about this a few times, the Wakefield Manor site plan. And so Lauren has been working with the applicant team and the staff planner, and they're planning to make a presentation to the HLRB in August. So we will have a brief presentation on that project for you next month. Okay. All right, and then I think the last thing we have, I'm turning to Serena, has to do with the bylaws.
Yes, this is a rather old document. It says amended 2010, yes, most recently. So we did a fair amount of cleanup that I didn't include, which was the zoning ordinance has changed since then. So we had to change some of that language. The main reason it's coming in front of you is because of the quorum issue. Since some week, when it's holidays, December, summer, it's hard to get everyone in the room. So everyone's still welcome to attend virtually, but the Virginia legislation passed rules last year stating that architectural review boards have to have an in-person quorum in the room. We didn't have an established quorum, so we were using what's called Robert's Rules. And it's just because Robert Dutzka's written on it. No, just kidding. It's,
the other Robert.
Yes. It is half, like the majority of half. And so we thought if we could change that, then we wouldn't have last minute, like frantic need to have people attend, but everyone could still continue to attend online. It would allow for more people with non-traditional schedules to join us, maybe people who couldn't join the HLRB before, who had childcare, because like Jenny Gwynn recently had to leave because she couldn't commit to the in-person requirements. So hopefully this will make it more accessible to everyone. We also have some additions to the committees and just fleshing out what those are going to look like. We haven't necessarily put all those into action yet, but at least we have the beginning of that language. And also, we want to do written summaries of the work at the end of every year, so we have some review information about that, so we can kind of keep track of it. And then I had a question for you, actually, Cynthia. I guess this includes language about the elections. We have a nominating committee, like a get together. Do we need a nominating committee to nominate a person? We just invite people, like, because then we have trouble getting the volunteers to agree to the nominating committee who are just going to ask someone a question.
Okay.
So
What section is that?
I think it's in. I don't. I will. I think it was.
It's H, elections.
Yes, thank you.
It's H, it's right after the highlighted committees.
I thought we reworded it. And the nominating committee is different every year because different people offer to do it. And it's typically been like 2, sometimes 3 board members will propose a slate of officers. And then the purpose of that committee is to present that slate at the December meeting, and then the commission votes on the leadership for the next year.
Is it necessary to have that nominating committee, do you think, or do you think people could just?
Are there multiple candidates for that job?
Well, we haven't
I
historically
mean, in
had
groups
a.
like this I've been on,
Like
and you have to
today.
beg somebody to do it.
I think it's a good idea to keep a nominating committee, just
I think
because,
so
you know,
too.
if you rely on volunteers, you may have people volunteer that you really don't want. I mean, I think it's better to keep it nominating. I've been on a lot of nominating
Yeah,
committees.
you've
over
done
the
it a
years.
lot over the
And
years.
so,
And
you know,
just have
sometimes
the
you want
chair
people
of
to
the-
step aside. I mean, I don't think that that's been true at the HRB, but it could be true, you know, or people want to. I mean, I think it's better to keep it on a committee level and just have a couple people. I mean, it is a kind of a hassle to get people to be on nominating committees. And I've been on several nominating committees for HRB, and we have a couple phone calls or one meeting or something, and it seems formalistic, but I've been in other places where it does perform a real function of sort of keeping things organized. And sometimes at these meetings, we go for things just to reach consensus. And I'm afraid that that's not the way I think we should be electing our officers. And I'm afraid that might happen is, you know, you have 2 people and people don't really want those people, but they're the ones who raise their hands. So they don't, you know, it's just to me something that ought to be done on a private level rather than a public level.
I was on the nominating committee like 2 years ago. It really was not that people left. Was that bad at all? For what it's worth. I mean, I'd be happy to be on it again next year.
Okay, I was just checking. So the only thing that, I mean, I would love you to read it. You do need to read it twice, so we need to see it again next month. But there was an option for quorum, because we did speak to the county attorney about what our options could be. And so we are presenting to you a minimum of 5 or 1 less than half.
How can you do that if the state law doesn't permit it?
Oh, it just requires a quorum, but it doesn't
Doesn't
state what
define
quorum is.
quorum.
Oh, it doesn't work.
And so we are defining
quorum
what
is.
our quorum is. And
Okay.
so that's, for DRC, our quorum is just 1 person.
Okay.
So it's up to you, and if you have a different quorum you'd like to recommend, right now, given the number of members we have, it's 7.
So technically, we could do business with 6.
Why? Oh, if we pass.
If this were to be passed next month.
Yes, if this were to, if either of these, but we have to choose one. So you would want to choose whether you want 5 or so the half minus 1. So in that case, if we were 15, then it would be 6.
My experience with these things, and I can't read that, and I missed that in the stuff that was sent out, but organizations that have lowered the quorum requirements are usually organizations that are dying, okay? And if you have problem getting people for a meeting, that's probably because you don't have the right people or you don't have the enthusiasm or something. There's something wrong with the organization. And maybe we have too many people on the HALRB, you know, we go up to 15 and people.
We haven't been at 15 in years, though.
Okay, but people, when you have that many people, people think, well, it's like voluntary, I'm really, and that's one of the, by making it 5, people don't take it seriously enough, I think. I'm just talking off the top of my head generally about, I don't,
But on the, just to respond to that, on the staff side, Serena has to spend a lot of time every month making sure we have a quorum. You saw all the business that was before you tonight. If we didn't have a physical quorum, all 7 of those projects would not have gotten approvals. And so it does take a lot of staff time to remind everybody about the commitment that for these monthly meetings. And so by lowering the quorum, at least from our perspective, then that gives us a little more flexibility in not having to give constant reminders every month and sweating out whether or not we will be able to conduct business.
And we currently have 2 members on long-term medical leave by no fault of their own, and so they cannot attend, which then puts a greater burden on everyone else to attend.
but you could draft a quorum requirement to exclude people who can't attend because they're sick or something like that, if you want.
So it would be,
Well, that's tough. It is, in the sunshine kind of laws, I mean, people would say, you got impacted, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it would be.
It's like 6 days,
That's very tricky.
So what's presented here at the bottom of page 1 in highlight is what staff suggestion was after a consultation with the county attorney's office, one of the 2. So if you all feel strongly about either of these options or have an alternative, we can either discuss that now, given the time, or something to think about, but be prepared to talk about it in August. So these can be finalized and voted on.
I just had kind of one question.
Yes.
Do you know the other commissions, what they do for their quorum rules, if it's 5 or,
so the other commissions are much slower and they just require all of our commissioners to be there every time.
Oh, to take action. Oh, my goodness.
So we can do that.
No pressure, 12 meetings a year, everybody.
So I would just note, when I read the first one, I did not understand.
I don't understand it either.
So now that I read it again and again, I'm like, okay, I get it, but I think even if we go with that number, 1 less than the majority, we need to wordsmith it a little bit.
Right. Okay, so that has to be like half or half as well. Yes.
Yeah, and maybe moving the in-person like closer to quorum, not having it at the end of the sentence might help.
Oh, okay.
Because I was confused about.
So maybe a quorum of the in-person review board shall consist?
Well, is what we're required to have an in-person quorum?
Yes.
So to conduct its regular business, an in-person quorum of the review board. And then you can put the requirement.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
The way it reads now,
I was just
it's actually 1 less than whoever showed up means a
That's
quorum.
what
So
I thought
you
at first.
always
And I was
have a
like,
quorum.
oh,
That's the way it
great.
reads now.
Let's do that.
So you'd always, if 3 show up, then you only needed 2.
Let's do that.
That's the way it reads now.
That's what I thought.
That's brilliant, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so
But it
that-
does read that.
Yeah.
And the attorney
But
approved
then
it,
it brings
so.
the next one.
Yeah, no, but they're 2 different things.
Yeah. So, yeah.
They're 2 different.
But I think 5 seems maybe a little low for a 15-member board, so I actually like the first one, but it just needs to be more
rewritten,
so that we understand it.
Or an in-person quorum shall consist of 1 less than the majority of the members.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you mean.
The members currently
Serving,
serving. Thank you.
Yeah, and not this present.
not present, because then you would always have a quorum. That may be what you had in mind.
Subconsciously.
I wish I had.
It were that easy.
Very clever.
Okay, so I will rewrite that language. I will get it out to everyone. If anyone, again, you've seen this for the first time now, but we have another opportunity to look at it again. If you want to add anything, I'm open. You can always send me emails or phone calls, whatever you want. I'm available. I did want to, my last thing was, I was walking by the Courthouse Landmark Project, which is one of the ones you looked at over the last 2 years. And the panels are up and it looks great. And I was just walking by thinking, I hope the HLRB know the beautiful things that are out there in the community because you put them out there. And it's even got this gorgeous green wall right next to it. And it's just a reminder that we can integrate modern and sustainable architecture with historic architecture in a really beautiful way. So congratulations, you did a great job. So I recommend going when it's not pitch black.
So can I just do a quick poll to confirm that we'll have a quorum in person for next month? If everyone can get out their calendars and make sure, August 16th. So John, Amari,
Yeah.
Carmela, are you on?
She's not.
She's not.
Heather's
Gray,
No one.
I don't know. I'm sorry. I can't answer you.
okay, Joey,
I don't know.
Rebecca,
Not sure.
Katie,
Gosh.
Andy,
I'll be here.
okay, and, all right, so just so you know, we do not yet have a quorum. We only have 4 people
Yeah, we are
confirmed,
3 away
so,
from quorum. And that's without, and obviously Carmela and Robert. And so we have only 4 people, 3 people we can hope show up, like are available. And if they're not, we come back. Which,
no bylaws.
it's August, it's party time.
All right, that is it, we are done.
Okay, thank you all for your time.
All right, we're adjourned.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.